Blacktails here in Colorado, and I'm about to record with Erik Barber. It's kind of funny, these podcasts always kind of sneak up on me. I tried to get it set up last night, but it's not quite set up. Got to do a few little things, but when you're seeing me do this, this is all this setup is a couple super cheap lights, and then I've got this GoPro hooked up to my webcam there. I mean, my desk is a mess. Got some stealth strip here, napkin because I spilled coffee, a couple terrible looking notepads. I'm gonna finish setting up here, give Erik a call. I don't really even know what we're gonna talk about, so that's a funny thing about the podcast too. I don't always know what we're gonna talk about. A lot of times I just call people and then start talking. It's a good time. Don't even realize my hat's on crooked until I guess I'm just a crooked hat wearer. It feels straight, and then I look in the camera and it's like, son, I ain't straight. You know what I mean? I might have to go get some coffee. There he is.
Dude, can you hear me?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
What up, dude? Yes.
God, that looks beautiful over there.
Yeah, man, I can say the same about all those big old bucks behind you.
Could you hear me talking to myself just a second?
I could, yeah, I was laughing real hard.
Dude, I'm testing out this new, so we got this new software, and it does, like, it's basically like Zoom, except for you have more manual control throughout, and
okay,
this is kind of in a way, the maiden voyage with a guest, so bear with me if anything kind of fails. I was like, I guess, you know, it's better to be Erik than like somebody that I don't really know. So
right, exactly.
I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good, dude.
Dude,
I also made a coffee run.
I just said I'll take the whole pot.
Dude, the Stanley thermos has changed my life. A girl I work with got me one for Christmas, and there is nothing like having that big old, like, huge pot with that little, like, screw-up lid as the cup. Like, just feels more up class drinking out of that little cup lid.
You can just be drinking little cups all day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more manageable if you drink 72 tiny little 10-ounce cups rather than
it slows you
big
down.
drinkers.
Dude, my issue, so since I've been home since deer season ended, it's just progressively gotten more absurd, you know, where it's like I started with Whitney would leave, make a pot before she went to school, leave a couple cups in there. I'd drink about 2 of these.
Yeah.
Then it started, you know, being like, you know what, I'll make a little bit more. So I'd make like a half a pot. And then it's like, next thing you know, it's like I'm waking up, finishing that one, making another one, then maybe even making another one later in the day. And it's like, I got to slow this down.
Yeah, dude.
It's pretty fun, though.
We've been, between Mark, Sawyer, and I, we've been trying to cut down coffee intake at work. And, like, we're limiting it to, like, 4. So, like, the window is real high. Like, 4 big, you know, Yeti-sized, like, things of coffee. It's like, that's not a really good standard to limit. Like, we should be cutting it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, is I feel like while there is a little bit of withdrawal from coffee, it's never, like, if you end up getting to the point where you're like, I'm doing too much, I really need to stop. I don't ever feel like it's so crazy that it makes you too miserable, or it's not like, I don't know, it's not like other things, like when I quit nicotine, for example, that was a lot harder than quitting caffeine. And like when I hunt, I feel like it's hard to see this way because of the way that we show it in the videos. Wow! But it's like I actually drink less coffee when I'm hunting. It's just what gets me really revved up first thing in the morning or midday or on the road. But it's like I'm using it for more of a specific purpose, where here at home and I'm just working on my computer, it's just, I don't know.
Recreational Joe.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know that this isn't medicinal.
Right, exactly, man. Dude, I feel the same way. It's like when I bring coffee into the woods, I'll sit there in the tree, just like drinking that stuff all day long. And I swear, man, having a lot of coffee with you, like, yes, you have to pee way more, but it keeps your mental,
Oh
like,
yeah.
it keeps you warm. It's like there's
Uh-huh.
nothing better than it being 35 degrees and pouring a little cup of coffee, drinking it in the tree, man. It's
I don't
beautiful.
I don't think I have any, but we've got a little Keith kind of got me into this, and I don't know that I totally support it and then I want to be spreading the word of it, but have you have you ever seen those Mio Energy, like the squirt bottles?
Yeah.
Dude, that that is like, that's straight to the brain. We call them DBS, direct brain squirt. And it's unhealthy. It really is. Like we we did it, I don't know, probably the first time a couple years ago, but I guess a couple of years ago we used to use those Walmart packets, and those
Yeah.
are those are also those are probably worse. Those make
Yeah.
your heart beat abnormally. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever tested the waters with those, but dangerous.
Yep.
And we uh, did that, and then we call those reds. I don't really know why. Just if you ever hear us
Red wine.
reference, yeah. I think I think too. It's funny because I think it originated from the first color was red, and
Yeah.
then as time has gone on, we've got a variety of different colors or flavors, but they're still
Yeah.
just reds. And whether you're doing a packet or you're doing the squirt bottle, it's all just a red. Just getting that red.
Oh, dude, I love it.
That's
Hey,
what
man,
keeps
and
us
we're
alive.
yeah, dude. When you're operating on 4 hours max of sleep and getting in 20,000 steps every day, like you need some sort of synthetic supplement to keep things operating correctly.
But it's just like not realistic for me to carry coffee, most situations. So
Yeah,
I just do think it's pretty funny because we always carry a water bladder. So it's like squirt, hit a water, squirt, hit a water.
squirt red.
I've got all kinds of weird footage of us doing
Yeah,
direct brain squirts.
the
Pretty strict.
DBS.
DBS.
Dude, is
Um,
that a jackalope mountain behind you?
yeah.
I love
Uh,
that. Yeah,
uh,
there, that one.
my
Dude, I
my
love it.
aunt got one of those or two of them, I think, from a friend. So then, of course, I saw it and was like, "That's sick. I need one of those." And
Yeah.
she eventually gave me one of them as a Christmas present. I'm pretty sure hers got um, eaten by what moth? What are they moth? Like what are those called? You know what I'm talking about?
I
Moths.
have no idea. Moth? Oh,
What
yeah,
what
moth.
what they have
Yeah,
for mothballs for? Where
yeah,
they get
yeah.
and they eat your stuff. Like that pretty much just destroyed one of her jackalope. So that sucks.
Dude, that's horrendous. That's
Hmm.
reason 900 why moths suck.
Yeah, I've got a couple in here, and then I got one over in my living room, but they're
Moths or jackalopes?
great question. I wish I had multiple jackalopes, really. Just like throughout the house, there's just
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 jackalopes. It's like, damn, Zach's a good jackalope hunter, dude.
Oh man. Yeah, dude, it's those things are like a staple in any northern Wisconsin bar. You go up there and you're bound to see a couple jackalopes on the wall.
I would be super curious to know what like the origin of the jackalope is. I should probably research that. See if I could get the guy that, you know, spotted the first jackalope in the wild, you
Yeah,
know.
drew the first tag. My gosh, what a conservation success story,
Oh
man.
yeah, I mean from almost extinct to, now I got one on my wall and in my bathroom.
Seriously. Oh man, yeah, dude. The power of license sales at work.
So this is your guys' new place then that you're at?
Yeah, we moved. We moved back in August, and we literally moved 10 days before I left for Alaska. So dude. We had boxes all over. I brought all my hunting stuff to work, kept it at my desk because I didn't want to like move it from our old house to the new house, and then to getting ready to fly out. So instead, I just brought everything. I had hunting stuff at work. we were bringing boxes over here. Like it was a total rodeo. And I think I was in the house for maybe I think like 6 days. There was a point where I had slept more in a tent than I slept in our new house.
That's
Like
awesome.
after owning it for almost a month, I think I was in a tent more than living in the house. It was ridiculous.
I mean, that's pretty sweet though. It'll all
Yeah,
catch up in the end.
yeah, exactly. But no, it's cool. We moved like I said, like late August, and we're a little closer to work and stuff. So yeah, we rented for a long time and finally got a spot, man. So it's been fun. Still, I've
That's
got
sweet.
boxes everywhere. Like if I pan this camera, there's just stuff all over.
Oh, dude, I was doing like a little phone video before we started, and I was just like, I'll just be honest with everybody. It's like I'm just not a clean dude. Like I cleaned up in here a lot last night, but like I still have cords and stuff laying around, and like just my organization process. I just don't think is that good. I try really hard,
Right.
but then it's like I just still don't know what to do with a bunch of camera batteries. Like, how do you organize those well? It's like I just
Right.
got them kind of stuffed into a desk. It's like
But you know where they are.
I know
If
where
you
they
got to
are
find
at
them,
least right
you
now.
can find them. Yeah, exactly, man.
Do you ever deal with
So
that? Do you ever deal with that deal where you're like, I know I've seen that thing that I'm looking for right here before, and now I don't know where it is, and now I'm panicked.
100%. Like here, this is my current organization that I have going on for like the little SIM cards for
Yeah.
cell cams. Like I put it on the like it just sits on my desk. This is most definitely going to get vacuumed up like within the next 6 months, and I'll be like, where is it?
Yeah,
But
dude.
right now, I know that it sits right next to where it used to go inside of that. But for now, it works.
Yeah, I get pretty risky with SD cards. Don't tell the boys. It's like, but I do my SD cards. I've gotten much better at. This is
Yeah,
my podcast case, and in here I just have my little baggie of extra
yeah,
Ziplocs, and that's been a pretty solid system for me.
sure.
I
Oh
just
man.
added a couple new stickers to it yesterday
Oh,
too.
that's sweet. That's super cool. What's that? What's the one on the like colorful one?
National Forest. It's
Oh,
a
that's
National
sweet,
Forest
man.
sticker. Got
That is really cool.
a bunch of those at the NWTF thing, and then I
Yeah.
got in trouble because Whitney also picked up more than me, and I was walking around with my water bottle, and there's one
Yeah.
there, and there's one there,
That's super cool.
and she was like, "You stealing my stickers?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess I thought I picked these up, but apparently not."
Dude, a good sticker is those are tough to find. I mean, a good sticker goes a long ways.
I have I have so many stickers. I started putting them on my decked drawers, and I
Yeah,
think that's
I've started doing the same thing because I don't want to put them on my truck.
me either.
Like I always feel like when people put like their bow, their like camo, their all that stuff on their truck, it's like saying smash window for free stuff. Like it has never made sense to me. So I put it out like just like you said on the deck drawers, and it's like that's a much more discreet way of doing it.
Yeah, I've also thought a lot about just how much it can give away that you're a hunter.
Hmm.
Like, for example, I was in Ohio a couple weekends ago and I was scouting and I was driving through some public and I saw this Jeep all blacked out. It was that truck bed Jeep.
Oh yeah,
And it was like, oh, this guy, he's probably hiking or hunting or I guess hiking or scouting. And I
sure.
go past him and in the uh, window or through the windshield, I can see that he's got the turkey spur like necklace hanging.
Oh
And
yeah,
I was just like, "Oh, son, you gave yourself away. I know what you're doing in there now." Which,
yeah.
I mean, otherwise, some places and some times of the year it might be more obvious, but it's like you just see a regular old truck with no stickers on it. It's like I don't know what they're doing necessarily.
Right, exactly. Especially if it's like some of those more older, discreet looking vehicles. Like you never know.
Oh
But
yeah,
man, the you brought up the turkey spur necklace. I was just like, I'm trying to figure out what to do with all my like spurs and beards. Like I've been doing this thing where I put Like I'll buy like a bunch of like long shoelaces, like the kind that you would see in like work boots, like that standard like yellow whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll like cut the shotgun shell, like I'll cut the plastic out, pop the primer out,
Yep.
and then I'll put a hook through that shoelace that goes through that hole where the primer was, connect it to the string, and then you put your spurs, your shotgun shell, and the beard all like on one kind of like unit, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. I gotta find like a method of like hanging those things and displaying them without it looking like total ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Very similar to that.
Mine's
That's sweet.
definitely the lazy way of doing it. I just stick a knife through the shotgun shell and then twist it, and then I get it big enough so I can stick this. This is just a random piece of leather I think I found somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the beards are just shoved into the end of the shell. It's not even glued or anything. It's just like I can pop them right out of there.
Oh, that's sweet. That's super cool. Yeah, I actually, speaking of organization, let's see. This will be a real time test to see if I know where these things are. I know they're in here. Like,
and this is how I hang them: is I just stick them right. I mean, it's not the fanciest thing in the world, but I pretty much just hang them right off those little mounts.
That's sweet, dude. I like it. I know I got these things in here. This is a real time test of organizationals. Oh, yep. Here we go.
It's always so funny, dude, the organization thing. Like, I always do these podcasts, and it's like you only see this section, but it's like sometimes if you could just see the floor, it's just like a nightmare.
Right,
there exactly. You go. That looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I got to figure out like a way of like, so like you cut the plastic, you got a hook through, like this one I have way too little rope, but like, I don't know. I think it looks sweet. Chantel gets so pissed off because I got a whole box of like feet. So really funny story on these things. I actually got to ask these people because I work with them, but a couple of years ago, our apparel team was working on like, they wanted to see like a backpack. Like just a bare bones, no frills backpack. So I have like a Cabela's. Well, it's those old Cabela's packs that we used to use at Midwest Whitetail.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just the regular, no frills, fancy camel backpack, whatever. And I brought that thing into work. They just wanted to like see something because I think they were working on like modeling laughter and seeing like, you know, what they liked, what they didn't like. So I just brought this thing and I'm like, here you guys go. This would have been right after we moved into our old house that we now just moved out of. And long story short, I just gave them the backpack without ever looking inside of it. And they gave it back like the next day. I open up the backpack and there's a box, like just a cardboard box labeled turkey feet. And and nobody ever asked. Like no one ever said like, "Hey Eric, what's this box of turkey feet?" Or it might even said like turkey parts. And like it was just in that backpack, and they, with almost certainty, had to see that. So I'm gonna ask them on Monday if they ever like dug into that thing and recall that, because I was still fairly new at the time. I think I'd only worked there like less than a year for sure. And so when I brought it home and I opened it up and I saw the box, I'm like, oh
no. That's so hilarious. It reminds me of a story that happened last year for us. Whitney went turkey hunting with me. We went specifically to hunt in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we met up with Jake and Crystal and hunted over in their neck of the woods a little bit, and we were also with our friend Bruce, who's like a newer friend of ours, and he had been also turkey hunting all season, but like Whitney and I had flown in because it was the end of the season and we were just gonna make a quick trip, you know, had place to stay and everything, so it was a little bit different than early in the season. But Bruce had just still been touring with his truck, so he's been to, you know, this long list of states and hunted, and I think pretty much shot a turkey in every state that he had been in. And
God, dude, that's so cool.
Oh, it's sweet. Bruce does some pretty cool stuff, like, and he's a really fun guy to hang out with. Talks a lot, like you and I. So
good.
You would get along with him really well, and he's also Southern, so it's awesome to listen to him talk. So we were getting, I don't know what we were even doing. Maybe he was napping or something, and like Whitney maybe moved his truck a little bit, and she got in there. And she comes back to me and she's kind of like shell shocked. She's like, there's so many turkey feet and beards on the floorboard of his truck. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, what do you expect? Like, he's
Yeah.
traveling around turkey hunting the country. What do you expect? He's going to have a bunch of beards. But she just seemed like she was shocked. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many. But I just think that's a funny thing to visualize is Whitney getting in to move
Yeah.
Bruce Hall's truck, traveling turkey hunter, traveling with his dog and a bunch of turkey feet at his feet.
Yeah, yeah, it's like those like horror movies where someone like goes into like a serial killer's like house and just sees
Oh,
like
yeah.
weapons and shit and bodies all over. I wonder how that would work out if like if like let's just say he casually was having a conversation with a warden, and he opened up the door and there's just like feet
Dude,
and turkey beards and stuff.
I have a story that I'm pretty sure has never been told on any THP platform
Oh
whatsoever.
boy.
So this is a hilarious one because it's exactly that. It's
Yeah.
exactly that. So it was opening day in West Virginia, and it was myself, Ben, and Colin.
Okay.
I was editing the night before, so I was kind of hanging back. Ben went ahead, and he roosted a turkey on public. So it was like, okay, sweet. Like, we got a place to go. So we get there super early because we're expecting some pressure. It's opening day, and it's not like this is a huge piece of public land. There's,
Yeah.
it's one of the smaller types of land pieces that I would say I hunt in general. And there's quite a bit of access and everything. One of those types of spots. Probably a lot of
Yeah.
similar to a lot of the stuff you hunt.
For sure.
And I was pleased to see that nobody was at the spot that we were going to. So we pull in, or I'm sorry, first off, we drove all our vehicles there. So it was my
Oh yeah.
Caliber at the time, Ben's Chevy Cruze at the time, and Colin's big white van at the time that has no
Yeah.
stickers, no nothing. It's just like on the verge of being creepy.
Yeah.
So we park their vehicles right when we make it into the public land, and then we take my vehicle to the spot, and we get there and there's nobody there, and it's like, man, this is sweet. Like, we've got this bird roosted, and Ben heard him from the road, so we're in the game already. And we're standing there, and all of a sudden, like just as we're about to leave the truck, the floodgates open. Everybody's showing up, like four-wheelers flying down the road, trucks coming down the road, headlights going everywhere, and just pretty startling, to be honest, because up to this point, we had been hunting multiple states, and I know we had not seen that much pressure yet,
Yeah.
Everybody wants to say all our birds are the most pressured, and like that's all super situational and regional because
Totally.
in this situation, this was insane.
Yeah.
And I see this truck pull down the road and they stop 100 yards from our pull off, but I can see their lights on the road. Truck doors start slamming, and I remember four-wheelers going like both ways past them, and it's like, this is wild. Sure enough, old boy comes walking down the road, and he walks straight down right into the pull-off that we're in. And they're, at this point, too, it's starting to get gray, and birds are gobbling everywhere. Like, it makes sense that with the pressure, it's like, okay, there's actually turkeys everywhere. The one Ben heard is one of, like, 20, it felt like we could hear. And he just walks right up to us, and he just goes, like, kind of looks at us and doesn't really say anything. Maybe he says something like, "Morning, boys," or something. I was like, "Hey, man, how's it going? Like, where are you planning on going?" And without missing one single stride, he just goes, "I'm going right down in here." And, like, just all chipper about it, but just walked right past us where we're at. And, like, there's birds gobbling, and he just walks right past us towards the turkeys. And it's just like, I remember looking at Ben and Colin and being like, I want no part of this. Let's just get in the vehicle and just cruise around and find a place where there's nobody there. And then we just don't have to, like, because it was dangerous. Not even because of, like, well, first off, we obviously had a terrible communication with this guy. And it's like, it's going to get unsafe. There's people going in on these same turkeys that are 300 yards off the road. Anyway, we cruise around and go hunt the whole day. End up finding a really nice chunk where we could really get back in there, and ended up not really having much action, but don't quote me on this because I don't want to say it wrong for sure, but it's either noon or 1 close. And in the laws of West Virginia, you have to be back at the vehicle by that time frame, or like,
oh man,
or there's like a small buffer, but it's like it's not unload your gun at noon or 1. It's get back.
Oh man, that's wild.
Yeah, so always read your regulations, and we were making sure to do that. And we had a long walk back to the vehicle, and actually how it played out was this spot just happened to be in a place where we could walk through the piece and end up back at Colin and Ben's vehicles, which we had left before we had even had this encounter with the guy walking past us.
Sure.
And we go back and we're walking down the road, and we're on time. We're like, okay, good. Odds of us seeing a game warden are low, but you want to make sure that you're doing everything right, obviously.
Yep.
And we get back to the vehicle, and there's a warden standing there. I don't remember if he was a warden or if he was a sheriff, but either way, he had he was checking hunters. That was his mission for that day. Mm-hmm. And we walk up, and I'm feeling great. It's like that's why you do everything right. And we get up there, and he's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" We're like, "Oh, pretty good. Beautiful day." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you guys hear much?" We're like, "Yeah, actually early we did, but there was just so many people, we got run out and whatever." And kind of tell him that whole story. He's like, "Yeah, I talked to a guy, he shot a nice bird down here and blah, blah, blah." And then he eventually asks, "Can you guys show me your hunting license?" And we all show him our hunting license. And he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "Well, I just got a couple questions for you guys." And I was like,
"Oh man,
okay." And he's like, what's that turkey fan in the back of that car right there? Is that your guys' fan?" And we're like, and then it starts dawning on me. I'm like, oh, we got all these turkey parts. We've been traveling around from state to state at this point. We have not taken a day off, and we are a month in. So we've got turkey parts everywhere. I mean, up at that point, we had, shot or filmed like probably pushing, over 5 for sure turkeys. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Ben's like, "Oh, that's mine. I shot up in Virginia a couple days ago, and we traveled up here, and we're just drying that fan out." So this is another thing that everybody should always do, because it was very easy. Is I have screenshots of all the confirmation numbers of all the turkeys that I ever shoot, deer. Same with Ben. And it's just like, here, this is exactly what that is. And we just showed him that. And then he's like, "Okay, so what's this turkey foot laying on the ground?" Dude, in the midst of the morning stress, we were apparently just pulling anything and everything out of the vehicles and just dropping it on the ground. And there's like, I think there was a turkey foot, a vest. The turkey fan was in the back of his vehicle, but like we just finally were like, man, like, and I also have a weird memory of being able to tell you exactly the dates of, so I was like, I shot a turkey in Alabama on March whatever, and then I shot another one on March whatever, and it's just like, and then here's all the confirmation codes for those, and I showed the guy, and he's just like, pretty quickly realized, okay, these guys aren't messing around. It just like was a funny scene. So then we leave. And it was just like, man, I never thought about any of that. We're kind of cracking up about how funny it was that, I mean, in his defense, why wouldn't you ask questions about that? It looks pretty weird, right? A bunch of on opening day of turkey season, a bunch of turkey parts laying by these guys' vehicles.
For sure.
And we're driving. We go pick up my vehicle, and we're just getting there, and we get a text message, and it just says, "Hey guys, this is Officer so-and-so. You guys left your GoPro laying on the ground." Dude, I'm talking, just feeling so stupid about the whole thing. Like, we didn't do anything wrong, obviously, but just, feeling like such a dingus. And, oh man, that was so funny.
Just total yard sale stuff all over the place.
And that's when it was like, we need to like go back to Ohio and go to Ben's house and just take a breather here and just
Yeah.
kind of reset. Because obviously at that point things were getting beyond normal in the brain.
Yeah.
But,
Dude, that even reminds me a little bit of, oh man, it would have been like the last year I was at Midwest Whitetail when Luke Cook interned.
yeah.
And it was like day, I don't know, 198 of waterfowl hunting, what it seemed like. And Luke left his pistol on the roof.
Oh,
Remember this?
yeah, I
He
forgot
drove
about
away.
that.
I don't think he ever found that pistol. I think that thing is just like, I mean, this might be an incriminating podcast at this point because I'm like, that thing's just gone. I'm sure he figured it out. I mean, that's been what now, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But still, just crazy, man.
But it's so easy to do stuff like that.
Yeah, it is.
The binoculars are the easiest, I think, to do that. If you don't wear a harness, like if you're just running loose like this, this is a dangerous game to be playing because you do one of those and you jump back in the vehicle. I was with my buddy one time and we were actually this place we were hunting. We were actually driving into West Virginia to come out and back into Ohio. This is way back in college. Did you ever meet my friend Brad?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I did meet him. Is he? He's not
tall,
the one that.
Real tall guy that he lived in Minnesota for a little bit, but I don't know that you actually.
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I talked about him. I don't know if I ever met him, but we were going back and driving down the 4-lane highway, and all of a sudden, I mean, we're going fast, and we'd been going fast. We've been driving for 20 minutes.
Speed, baby.
Yeah. And we just hear, and it's like, what was, and Brad goes, binoculars, and pulls over to the side of the freeway, jumps out, runs back, and finds his binos, and they somehow didn't break. I think they were Vortex.
Yeah, there we go.
But it was like,
that's wild.
It was pretty funny, and it's just funny how you remember those things, like in the moment. As soon as it happens, it's like, that's what I did.
Right, you know exactly where it is, what it is, and when you left it there, even though like you forgot about it for 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I mean, how many times I've left the driveway with my bow like sitting by the front door, and it's like I get like 10 minutes down the road, and all of a sudden it just like dawns on you. Turn around, get the bow or whatever it is.
I was in Alabama in 2018. It was technically the first year of the THP Turkey Tour, and we had been sitting on the road waiting for a pickup. Like at that time, we were doing a lot more like dropping guys off and trying to save as much driving time as possible because of we were extremely broke at that point.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there kind of just like tired, and I remember handing my shotgun to Greg. It's just that classic hunting with your buddies deal. It's like, hey, let me hold your shotgun, and let me look down the bead. And he's doing that, and then he put it down, and I'm not blaming him. It is not his fault, but this is the reason that it slipped my mind, is he put it down, and it was not in the open. Camo shotgun laying in the taller grass off to the side of the road. Well, we hop in, and we start driving down the road, and I think we're going to a different spot. We go to get out, and I'm just like, I don't have my shotgun. And I knew right in that moment what had happened. It's just laying on the side of the road on some public ground somewhere. It's like, that's a dangerous deal too, because like you come back and, I mean, this didn't happen, but you come back and it's gone, then you're really hurting,
Yeah, definitely. Man, my 870 that I still use, like that when you look down the rib on that thing, like the bent rib actually has a little bit of a jog to the right, and then it straightens back out.
Does it really?
Because when I was like, I mean, I was probably 12 years old. It would have been my first year hunting ever, and my dad is not a turkey hunter at all. Like he has still never killed a turkey. I'm hoping to change that this year, but that's a whole different thing. But anyways. It was my real good buddy Luke. It was his dad that kind of got me into turkey hunting, and this guy, like I gotta paint the whole picture. Like Bob is my buddy's dad. Bob is a retired firefighter, and he's like your quintessential, like, we'll get a mid-morning start on these things. Like we pull in and it's like birds are just gobbling everywhere. It's been daylight for 45 minutes, and we're like trying to get stuff loaded up, real quietly. He's driving a Chevy Astrovan with a full carpet, a TV, like a box looking like TV in there. The seats actually like kind of rotate. You can like turn around. It was like a living room on wheels. We called it the shaggin' wagon. And, and this thing, like it's mainly white, but then it has like that 70s like green with like then a lighter green and then almost like yellow stripe that goes like horizontal along
just
the side.
Totally sick.
Yeah. So, like something like if you could find that right now, like you would want it real bad.
Yeah.
And we're like getting stuff loaded up. We got the back of the van doors like open. They kind of open like regular doors. It's not like a hatchback where it comes up. They just open out. And I had my 870 leaning up there, unloaded. And I'm like putting on my turkey vest. And I'll never forget like Bob grabbing the door and just starting to like slam it. And I'm like trying to talk quiet because I'm like, oh my God. And he like just, and then he just doubles down and gives it another one. So like when you look at the shotgun barrel, like throughout the vent rib, obviously there's those individual like cutouts. Well, you can see where that door just pinched one and the rib just went like just goes straight down like that. And I remember when that happened, I'm like, I'm going to have to buy a different barrel because it's going to bug me seeing this thing look like that. I'm so glad I never bought a different barrel because it just adds so much more personality to that gun. Like it's my favorite shotgun. I actually did get a new gun this year.
Did you?
But I feel kind of weird about like using it, because I've literally never killed a bird with anything other. I mean, I guess I killed a handful with my bow. You filmed me shoot that one with the bow. That's a whole nother story. Cut it in half. But I've never shot a bird with a gun with any other gun other than that one. But it's also it's so similar to warbs. Like that thing has been used so many times where if I keep using it, I know I'm literally like going to have to replace the stock on it. So the plan is I still want to shoot a bird with that thing every year. Like I'll probably always take it out on opening day and try to at least shoot one turkey with it every season. But then I'll probably switch out to this, new thing that I got. And
what'd you get?
I got a Franke Affinity. They're sweet. It's so much lighter than that 870.
That's the thing.
So I got a 12 gauge. I was in between 12 and 20. And I went.
You thought, damn it, I'm just more of a man than that. I gotta go 12.
Exactly. I mean, I had that thought, and I'm like, yeah, I am a man. So. But no, so I ended up going with a 12 just because it's like if I ever do get, I don't right now. The last time I duck or goose hunted, it's probably when we interned, or when we interned, might as well have been an internship. When we worked down at Midwest Whitetails, probably the last time I did any type of waterfowl hunting. So I'm like, well, maybe if I get into that again. I know I'm not, but
I think it's one of those deals too where you just never know. You're not wrong for thinking that. And if you want to minimize how many guns you have, and it's funny because my newest obsession, and I haven't done anything, I haven't acted on this at all, but I've been researching and picking up as many different guns, rifles specifically for deer and elk hunting is what I'm hoping to use them for as possible, because I think that, like, kind of on the flip side of the idea of I want to have a gun for every application, you can switch in and out depending on what strategy you're using. For example, if I'm on more of a casual spot and stalk, not casual, but like I'm doing a lot of glassing, a lot of open country rifle hunt, I want something that I can, be confident out at a longer range, put a, bigger, bulkier, fancy scope on it. I was actually holding my buddy's last night. He's got a 30-06 with I don't know which Vortex scope it is, but it is so sick. There's all the, all the little marks, but it was like a 6 by 50 by 24 maybe? Is that right?
6 to 24 by 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the Viper HST maybe. Viper HST or HSLR, one of the two. If I were guessing.
Whatever it is, it was sick. And
Yeah.
I want something like that for what I think I want to get is a 300 Win Mag.
That's where I'm at right now too, man.
Yeah, I think that like to me it just makes sense. I can do anything with it, and I feel like it's a gun that I could quickly get set up to, cover my 200 300 yard very well, and then as I continue to get more experience with it, I can continue to lengthen that out. And I mean, I know there's obviously tons of opinions on like long range shooting, but I do enjoy shooting a rifle. Like I've told you hundreds of stories about groundhogs when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I like doing that, and I feel like just having a gun for that application would be really fun for mule deer and elk specifically. But then I want a fast gun too. So I've been really looking into the Remington 7600 pump action rifles.
Yeah.
And then I've also been kind of looking at the Tikka T3 Extra Light as one that buddy, John and I's buddy Shane Kramer, he's in the muzzleloader. He was recommending that gun, and I held one, and it's pretty slick. It's just, now I'm overwhelmed with options, and it's like, where do I want to, which one makes the most sense for right now? But I just need some rifles to deer hunt with, because I'm still using the 450 and a muzzleloader only. Yeah. And for out west especially, I need to expand. But I was thinking 300 Win and a 30-06 is kind of what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I have a Tikka T3 Light.
Do you?
And I absolutely love it. I just got it this last year.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up getting it in 6.5 Creed.
Uh-huh. That's what he has too. That's what Shane has.
Yeah. I went that route for a couple reasons. Like I wanted something that Chantel can use when she wants to deer hunt that's going to be mild enough recoiling that she can, get comfortable with it. Chantel's definitely like, not as comfortable around guns as she is like shooting her bow in the backyard. Yeah. So I wanted it to be something that she could like actually spend time shooting at the range and like put a bunch of rounds down range and get comfortable with expecting what recoil is going to be, operation, all that stuff. And those Tikkas are so dang accurate out of the box. And I'm sure Shane kind of mentioned this, but man, the actions, like the bolts are just so smooth.
Yeah.
So I like that's what I went with. But then when we were in Alaska this year, I brought a 300 Win Mag up there, and after
you brought the man gun.
Yes, exactly. And we did that. We did that because we're like, Jesus, like these Blacktails that we're hunting. They're little Labrador sized deer. Like they're not huge. They are bigger than I gave them credit for. I actually got the skull sitting right here.
Yeah. I'm sure we're probably going to talk about that some, huh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, dude, so we brought a 300 Win Mag. We all brought 300 Win Mags up there. We all brought the same gun because we thought, like, if one of our guns go down, like, we want to be able to swap, So we had 3 guns that are owned by Vortex that we just all brought up there. And I was very hesitant on like getting it, like being comfortable with that thing, but it had a muzzle brake on it. Cause I'm like, we joke about the man gun. I can't shoot a man gun real well. Like I shoot that 6.5 Creed much better. But so these things have, they all had muzzle brakes and dude, unbelievable. Like genuinely the 300 Win Mag with a muzzle brake had less recoil than my 6.5 Creed without a muzzle brake. And the reason that we brought 300s up there is because brown bears are just all over the place. So we're like, we're not bringing the 300 for the Labrador sized blacktail. Right. We're bringing the 300 in case stuff hits the fan and we do need to, anchor a big old, brown bear, which we saw right away. Like they were all over the place up there.
Dude, yeah. I feel like that's the thing about it for me is whether it's for that reason or it's just simply the reason of you want something that you can knock down a mature mule deer buck and an elk with in the same gun, same round, essentially. Like, to me, dumb it down. You know, it's a little bit of the theory of shooting a heavy arrow, right? It's like, if I'm going to shoot a heavy arrow, why wouldn't I shoot a beefy rifle as well? And that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the 300 Win and a 30-06. And like you said, with the muzzle brake, and I know, dude, something that I really want to dive into the topic with you at some point, not necessarily to record, but for my own personal uses.
I know right where you're going with this.
Spoke highly of the ear plug things.
Yeah.
I need that badly, because when I'm hunting with my 450, it was your gun. Hell, it's your gun.
Yeah.
That 450 is too loud. Like
it's insane.
Don't like that. And I know, hey man, maybe there's some more, man out there that doesn't bother him, but I do not like that. I mean, because when I shot that buck, this guy here, the Ohio one with Ben a couple of years ago, I shot him and he goes down, and it was just immediate.
I know.
And I couldn't hear him rolling. And when I watched the footage back, you can hear him rolling on the ground.
Yeah.
But I couldn't hear that. And it's so funny when I watch the video, it's way different than my memory for the first 10 seconds, because I was just deaf. Even when I say, you can hear him rolling, and I'm saying, I think he's laying right there, Ben. But all that time, I couldn't hear anything. So I need some sort of ear protection, because, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, that might really be an issue for me if I keep doing that.
You're 100% right. We actually, we did a podcast with Grace.
What's that one called?
So the ear pro that I used was called Auto Pro. And listen to that podcast.
Yeah, what's the podcast number? Do you know?
I'm looking it up right now. I'll find this in a second here, but it's on the Vortex Nation podcast.
That can be found on YouTube, right?
Yep. Let's see. It is episode number 245. Listen up while you still can with Grace Sturdivant from Auto Pro. And I mean, you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on all the streaming platforms, all that stuff. But she is awesome. So what we did a really unique way of starting out that podcast, where Mark and I and Haley, who is also on the podcast, we all took hearing tests. And like, it was very telling. Like, I am on the so Mark is, Mark doesn't like when we talk about his age, but he's a little older than you and I, Zach.
How old is he? Throw him completely under the bus. How old is he?
He's 46. He's 46.
Is he really?
Or 45. Gosh, he's 46 or 45.
Hey, man, you got to be proud of that. I'd be tripping that up constantly. Great. Hell yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that he's 45.
Yeah. Hey, I'm seasoned and I look great.
I would have guessed him as, man, really? I would have guessed him, honestly, upper 30s.
I know, man.
I thought he was just, 8 years older than us, roughly. But I wouldn't have been surprised. That's crazy, man.
He's found the fountain of youth. But anyways, we did a podcast on that where we took this hearing test, and like Mark's scores were significantly lower than mine and Haley's. Yeah, this is it. And it was just like, it scared me, because I'm like, man, if I continue on this path that I'm on and I don't do something, for my ears, hey, I'm wearing the same shirt. But but I'm going to be in the same boat that Mark's in, 20 years from now. So
was his test lower than what yours was?
Yeah, significantly.
Really?
Significantly. So how the test works is like, you basically put on like noise canceling headphones, and it's not a perfect science, but you basically like tap in where you hear the lowest possible sound, like at different pitches, different cadences, all that stuff. And very, very interesting, because like high pitched noises were really hard for Mark to hear, because he's got tinnitus, So anyways, it was interesting. Definitely to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm going to invest in this stuff. I mean, hearing protection isn't cheap, but it's like, I'd much rather pay that up front and invest in like saving my ears than be like, my dad is horrendous. Like he's got, hearing aids and it's hard to have a conversation with him. There's also like all these different studies out there where early onset hearing loss can, lead to dementia later in life. And it's like, that stuff scares me, man, because it's so preventable. It is literally just a decision of putting something in your ear, So,
yeah.
and
go ahead.
Well, and to your point, like those guns with muzzle brakes, they're more enjoyable to shoot because they recoil much less. But man, you pay a price, and it is in the sound. Like they absolutely will blow your eardrums out.
Yeah, I don't notice shooting that 450, especially at an animal, and really at a target either, on a bench or whatever. I don't notice the recoil.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm telling you, when that gun goes off, there's a wave that goes to your feet, and you can feel it hit your pants. Like,
for sure.
I filmed my grandpa shooting it.
Yeah.
I was about to go muzzleloader hunting, and I stopped at his place and just made sure my muzzleloader was dialed, and I had the 450 there too. And I was like, "You want to shoot this thing?" Because he hadn't shot it, and I filmed him on my Snapchat. And dude, when the gun went off, I felt it like move my pants.
For sure.
Whoa.
And yeah.
Yeah, I
mean, what it's doing is it's just dispersing all that gas like outwards, So if you're like off at an angle, like that's exactly what you're feeling, and it's impressive the shock that stuff, like it's nuts, man. Like and just imagine what that does year over year to your hearing. It cannot be good.
No, and the way the technology is these days is so much better than the old just plug in. A foam set, which are great, but a lot of times if I can, I'll put a foam set, and then I'll also put, when I'm target practicing, like a headset on.
It's the way to do it. That's definitely the way to do it.
The ones that Riser wears and like Ted was wearing in that elk hunt that we went on last year, 2021, I guess, he was wearing those, and he'd wear them like this when he'd be going in to hunt and stuff, so he could still hear animals, but then he'd pop them on when he's about to shoot her in a close to shooting situation. And the cool thing about that is you can still hear with them on. They just cancel. And I'm assuming that's the same for these ones that you're using now, but they're earbuds,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So the cool thing with Grace is she'll take like a mold of your ear. She'll inject it with this stuff that actually like maps to your ear, which is a wild thing in and of itself.
So how do you do that? Do you have to go to like a specific place to get that done, or how's that work?
So you can if you're like, she travels a lot, so she'll do things where you can for example, she came to Vortex and did a bunch of people. That's where I did it, but that's not the primary way. You can go to like any audiologist, get a mold of your ear, send that to Grace, and or Odor Pro, and they will, they'll have your mold then on file. What's cool there is once you have your mold, you can choose between any different number of like types of hearing protection. The one that I got is just the standard, like filtered, rubber molded, like basically earplugs. I mean, they entirely cancel out noise, and you do get a little bit in, like you can still have a conversation. But now that she's got my mold on file, if like, whatever, let's say next year I'm like, man, I want to invest in like the Bluetooth ones where I can like actually have a full on conversation and pick up and actually like enhance my hearing and then cancel out a gunshot. I don't need to go get my ears redone because she's already got that stuff on file, which is super, super cool.
Mm-hmm. I really like that.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, it's the way to go. Like you look at the cost of that stuff, and I'd rather pay that up front than be dealing with it later in life.
It's a hard thing to do, but yeah, I agree. And I've thought a bunch about, well, I'll just slap earplugs in right the last second. It's like, no, I'm not.
You never do.
Especially hunting with that 450. That's a timber gun, all day. In the timber, a lot of times you don't have 2 minutes to fiddle around looking for your earplugs, put them in, line up for the shot. It's like, usually it's like, there he is, bang,
Exactly.
So, I mean, with that buck, I might have been able to do it, but still, in the moment, your instinct takes over, and your instinct is not going to be, oh, let me lose focus here, take eyes off of him while I put these earplugs in. So
that's much more on like a spot and stalk hunt. Like that's actually what I did in Alaska. Like we glassed the buck up, we knew where it was, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put these things in, put them on, and I crept up to the ledge, and I mean, that buck was right underneath me, and the rest was kind of history. Like dude, that hunt was something else. It was.
We should talk about that. But before we
Yeah.
talk about that, I might have to hit the bathroom, take a leak real quick, because son got through some coffee. Bathroom break.
I'm right there with you. Intermission.
A lot of the world's problems get solved, as they say, on those phone conversations. But usually it's just a bunch of friends catching up.
Exactly.
As is right now.
Yep.
So along those lines, tell me anything and everything that you want to about your past season, but I know that you got a lot of cool stories from Alaska, so I think people will be interested in that.
Yeah. That was definitely the crown jewel of last season, for sure. I mean, so to back way up, it was October of 2021. Sawyer, my buddy Sawyer, who you know, called me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, we might have an opportunity to go to Alaska." And our other mutual friend, Brad Brooks, who owns Argali, which makes ultralight tents, trekking poles, and then they also have a media entity of their business. They invited Sawyer, Mark, and I up to Alaska on at that time, what was actually going to be a caribou hunt. And we were super stoked. So we started planning things out. Plans kind of evolved over time, and we landed on a blacktail hunt for a couple of reasons. One, it's more affordable. Two, it's something that you can tangibly go do with a big group and expect pretty high odds that people are gonna actually fill their tag. Which that's not what it's all about, but it is fun. But I would put it up there similar to some of the Montana deer hunts that I've done with my dad and a bunch of his buddies. We're not out there looking for the biggest buck in the county. We're looking for a buck. We're camping in a wall tent, and we want to fill up the buck hole. Whereas this is kind of similar in theory to that. So long story short, we ended up, we left August 21st of this past year, and we were up there for, I think, 8 days. Or we hunted for 6. I think we were there for a total of 9. And we flew in, got brought in on a float plane, just the coolest thing ever. And you'll appreciate this story. I can't not bring this up when we're talking about this trip. So I am very prone to motion sickness. I've never been on a float plane before, and I was so jacked up. I was also kind of prepping for being under caloric intake for the next 10 days by just eating and carb loading a ton of food. So the morning that we flew out, Mark and I are sitting in the hotel diner, and I'm just making peanut butter toast. Just more peanut butter, just eating peanut butter toast. Dude, I probably ate between 8 and a dozen slices of toast with peanut butter on it. And then I threw more peanut butter. It was the little Skippy packets, threw them in my top lid of my backpack. I'm like, oh, these will be great on the hill. And we're flying out there, and it was kind of rough weather. It was rainy, it was windy, gusty, and it wasn't exactly a smooth ride out. And
that kind of scares me, to be honest. Is the small plane stuff is probably pretty intimidating.
And you're kind of packed in there like sardines, you know, you don't really have a whole lot of room. And I'm kind of claustrophobic as it is. And I'm sitting in the window seat in the back, and Mark is to my left, and then Mike, another guy on our team, camera guy, is to Mark's left. We're all wearing waders, and then we have rain jackets on over the top because it's pouring rain, and we're going to get off this plane and immediately be in a torrential downpour, setting up a tent. So I'm we're all buttoned up, ready to go. And as you know, that stuff doesn't breathe incredibly well. So I'm sitting there kind of, packed in there tight. Every little bump, I'm feeling it. And I start getting the cold sweats.
No.
And next thing you know, dude, I dry heave, and I came back up, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be fine. After I did that initial dry heave. And for a minute, I was totally okay. And then all of a sudden we hit another bump, and it just, boom, I started throwing up. Willie, our pilot, hands me a Yeti cup, this exact cup, not this exact one, but this exact size. And he's like, get it in the cup. So I'm throwing up in this thing. I fill this up in one heave.
One
I
barf.
take one barf, exactly. I take the lid to put it on to like cap it up, and it created like a vacuum, and it just sprayed it all over Mark. Mark is a germaphobe, and then it hit me again, and I threw up everywhere, all over the plane. Like there was so much puke. It was horrendous.
I can't believe. I exactly can't believe it. It's so not surprising if for those that are listening, if you knew Erik as well as I do, that whole story, even the fact that it went on to Mark initially,
Yeah.
that's also not surprising. Of course, you know. That's so funny.
And like the peanut butter too. Like, dude, the whole plane smelled like peanut butter.
That
And
that might make me take a break from peanut butter for a bit, to be honest.
we're in like brown bear country, and Mark gets off the plane smelling like a peanut butter sandwich,
Smelling like bear bait.
Exactly. So, dude, I mean that's how the trip started, and from there it was the initial plan is we wanted to fly into like a high country lake.
Mm-hmm.
There's lakes all over Kodiak, and you can either fly into the ocean or you can fly up high and get in on one of these like high, like alpine type lakes. That was the initial plan, but we had camera gear, we had a lot of folks, so we couldn't actually get up that high. We had to land on the ocean and then climb up from there, which I mean, it was like, I forget what the elevation was that we did. I think we did like 3,000 feet in like within 2.5 miles of like horizontal distance. So it was, I mean, just like straight up. So
I love that.
we get up. Oh man, it was so fun. It was incredible. I mean, it was steep. Like you worked your absolute butt off, and when you're hiking through the alders and stuff, it's like, just picture like chest high like raspberry bushes, like is the best thing and it's soaking wet, and it's just like an absolute grind getting up there. But everyone is just so jacked up to get up, because as soon as you get up, like now that's when your hunt starts,
Yeah.
So we're like we're cruising up this hill, and we finally get up there, get camp set up, and we're like clouds are kind of in and out, you can all of a sudden you'd be able to see like across the bay, like, for forever away. But then all of a sudden, like, fog would roll in and you couldn't see anything. So anyways, we're getting tent set up and we spot this like giant buck. I mean, he's like probably half-mile away, and blacktails aren't like the biggest. They're not known for having huge racks, but we can see the rack on this thing from like, I mean, he's easily over a mile away, mile and a half away, and we can see the rack on this thing from that distance. So we're like, okay, there's a giant up there, and we broke the like group into two different groups. So Sawyer hunted with Brad and Jason from our gully, and then Mark and I hunted with Coop and Cooper Long and Mike Wozniak from our team. They were videoing it. So for people following along, like, we'll have a full video of this thing that goes out on the Vortex YouTube channel in August of this coming year. So that'll be a really cool place where people can actually, like, see this thing go down. But anyways, the first day we split up. Sawyer goes up to the next hill with Brad and Jason, and Mark and I are like the total opposite direction. And long story short, like, we saw a huge buck. We're trying to make a move on it.
Is this the same buck that you saw?
It's a different buck, but still a really good one. Sawyer actually was in the direction of that really big one. And we ended up spooking this one that I was after. He was basically on this knob in the middle of like just wide open. Like, the best way to visualize this is like, for anyone that's watched like some like the New Zealand stuff, where it's just like on the high alpine stuff, it's a little bit shorter grass, but then as soon as you get off the main ridge line, you're back in that like real thick alders and I'm totally blanking on the name of this berry, but there's a berry up there that like alderberry, I forget what it is, but
that's more of that chest high, like head high type of freaking out because there might be a bear within 30 yards of you type stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this thing's just bedded out on the wide open, and we kind of end up making a move at him. The closest we could get was like just over 500. It's day one. I didn't really feel like, just sending one at 500 yards on the first
Slinging
day.
Rick didn't
Dude,
sling.
I know. Well, this was the plan. As soon as I can get under 450, I was going to let it go. We got to 474 and ended up bumping that thing, and he got out of there. And I mean, it all worked out for the best, because to make a very long story short, we're sitting up there kind of, just like kind of regrouping. And the only caveat that I would say is, like, obviously this is day one of the hunt, but weather on Kodiak is so unpredictable. You might be sitting there and seeing bluebird skies, and literally 15 minutes later, it's just torrential downpour. You're fogged in. You can't see more than literally 50 yards. So
I feel like in any high elevation situation, that's just way more prevalent, because
exactly,
we have that when we're elk hunting sometimes where it's just perfectly clear, and a lot of times in the summer in Colorado they call it the monsoon season in the mountains, where it's like, I've seen it every day, day in and day out. 1 o'clock, just storm comes through, and then by evening again it's sunny. But it's like pretty crazy how quick it changes, for sure. And
man,
what elevation were you at exactly? Do you remember?
Not super high. We were probably at right about 3,500.
I guess you're by the ocean, right?
We're by the ocean, so you're hiking in from sea level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll actually look here. I'll just pull it up on Onyx, then get like an actual number there, because it's not the elevation that does it. It's the change in elevation from sea level up to where you end up hunting at. So, like, I'm looking at where I ended up shooting my buck, and I'm at right at 2,000. But again, that is going up from sea level of, basically like literally zero.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and different than like Colorado, where you're talking, peaks up in the 14,000.
Right.
Different than that, but there's the ocean, so that's a whole different factor of water and different temperatures hitting that certainly just makes it even crazier, honestly. I'm sure it's even way crazier than it is here.
Oh, it was insane. I mean, I'm going to jump to after I get through what happened here on that first day. Like, you've got the sense of urgency kind of over you. You've got 8 days to hunt. It's easy to be like, oh, we're going to be patient. We're going to hold out for a real good one. But you don't know what that weather is going to do. You might get 8 days of literal just socked in, and you pass an opportunity to shoot one on the first day. It's like, man, on day 8, you're really going to be kicking yourself at that. So that's why we kind of had the sense of urgency. So we're kind of regrouping. We hear a gunshot across the valley, like on the next ridge. Hear one shot, then all of a sudden another shot, and a fourth shot. And we're like, what the heck just happened? We're like, and 4 shots. Like,
is that for sure Sawyer and his crew?
Yeah. Yep, because there is like nobody out here. Like, our pilot flew over everything, kind of showed us, and like there's no other camps or anything. I mean, we totally had that to ourselves. And I mean, you are out there alone, like, you totally disconnected. I mean, to the point where, like, when you hear a plane, it's like, whoa, like you're kind of like taken back by it's a memorable thing when you hear a plane.
Yeah.
So you're that just disconnected. But anyways, we hear these gunshots. We hunt the rest of the day, get back to camp, and there's 3 bucks laying there. So Sawyer shot a nice buck, and then Jason, who he was with, also killed one. And then Sawyer took his eye. You'll have to watch, and this part of it will actually be on the Argali YouTube channel. So we kind of did a little collab type thing. So Sawyer's hunt is going to be on Argali's channel. And in the transition of Sawyer killing the first buck to then Jason killing the second, Sawyer picked his eyes back up, looking back where his buck was, and sees this other buck, and assumes that it's his buck that has now gotten its legs underneath him. So he grabs his rifle, boom, shoots again, and anchors this thing. come to find out, and he had 2 tags, which is why this ended up being perfect, you know, but he killed 2 absolute studs. And the second one is like, the first one that he killed was like a very, very nice buck. The second one that he killed is like a giant, like heavy, palmated. I think it was a 4x3, just like beautiful, beautiful buck. So we get back to camp. We're riding that high momentum. The next day we had kind of like real crummy weather, you know, just totally switched, and pretty uneventful day in general. The third day we get out, and that was going to be like our window. Like the whole week going into it, we kept saying like, as soon as we hit Tuesday, like Tuesday, Wednesday, that's going to be our window to really, you know, fill some tags. So we kind of had the sense of urgency for those 2 days. The weather was good. And we hunted that morning, pretty fogged in, couldn't see a whole lot. Get back to camp for lunch. You know, we were basically day hunting out of our camp. Like we had a base camp at the ocean, and then we hiked way up to the ridge. We camped at the ridge the whole week. Like we never came down until we were to base camp until we were done. But then we would just day hunt out from our spike camp up top. So when you hear like returning to camp, that's what I'm referring to. So we came back to our spike camp, regrouped, and Brad and Sawyer and Jason had just got back. And we're sitting there at camp, all kind of having a conversation, you know, middle of the day, weather's kind of coming out, and we glass up on that initial peak where on day 1 we saw that giant buck. And we see a bunch of deer up in that same area. Don't really know like what they are. We just know that there's a bunch of deer. So we make plans we're going after them. So Mark and I are heading up that way with Coop and Mike. We get eyes on these things, and we can see 2 on this like initial hillside way up high. Like I don't even know how to describe it other than just like an open vista that kind of comes up to like a peak, and they're like looking down. So we took a rock slide up and around to where we finally got up, and the closest we could get was 424 yards. And it was windy as heck. Like wind was really cooking through there. And I get set up on these things. They're nice bucks. Like one was a 3x3, other one was like a real solid 2x2. Both like totally the kind of buck that you're after. You're going to be excited to shoot. So get set up, get on the backpack. I'm feeling great, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a crack at these things. And I was shooting that gun so well that I expected to just absolutely fold that thing. And I knew that as soon as we would have exposed ourselves from that cut where we were kind of hiding behind and set up on, we would have blown these things out. We also did know that there was a bigger group of deer, like kind of out and around that basin on a little secondary ridge that went out basically over the ocean.
But you got terrain between you and those other deer.
Exactly. Lot of terrain and probably about 1,000 yards of distance. So there is a decent amount of ground between us and them.
So that's kind of a plan B even.
Exactly. Exactly. So I take a shot at these bucks that are at 425. Refuel, baby. I take a shot at these bucks that are at 425. And Mark was watching through the binos, and we can't even see where the bullet impacted. And hindsight, what ended up happening, I took a second shot then because I'm just like dead on these things, like feeling absolute rock solid.
And you've been shooting a gun, you know that you're
on. Man, and this thing, I mean, when I say this is the best shooting gun I've ever shot, like it was unreal. Like,
what make and model is it?
It was a Nosler 21 chambered in 300 Win Mag, and we were shooting Nosler AccuBonds out of that thing, and they were just, I mean, absolute tack drivers, like sub MOA. I mean, like something about your group would be at 100 yards, the diameter of like the first digit of your pointer finger. Like you could cover it all up with that. So I felt I had all the confidence in the world. So then I took that second shot and missed again. And we're just like, it's not worth it. You know, the deer at that point then had stood up, and they weren't like totally spooked, you know, and talking to Mark, like those deer just don't see people. Like we were genuinely probably the first people that those deer had ever seen. Two, they live up at this high elevation all summer where it's raining all the time. They hear thunder all the time, and they're not associating the fear of a gunshot with a human. Those deer just kind of stood there, and eventually they walked up to the very peak of the mountain where they could like see out over everything, which was actually pretty interesting. It reminded me a lot of like hill country whitetails, how they'll like bed and look down over stuff. So those things are out of the equation now. We know though that other group of deer is, kind of around this little like peak, and then on this point. So that's our backup plan. We start hiking over there, and
Do
we
you
get to
know,
a point.
did you figure out anything like what you were doing wrong or?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. So that's a really good question. Where we were sitting, we were kind of covered up by these rocks that we were laying prone and had the backpack set up.
Mhm.
Picture a little peak that then drops down and goes way up to the next peak.
Mhm.
In that peak, that in that valley, the wind is just kicking up the mountain, and it was like as soon as we got over there, like on that exposed hillside, I mean, it's like your hat's blown off, everything. I mean, like
Hmm.
30, 40-mile-an-hour winds. So after looking at the footage, I was impacting perfect up down, but just maybe 16 inches out in front of those deer, which would have been left of where I was aiming.
Yeah,
So
how do you even really compensate for that if you're not feeling it directly where you're at, which is
exactly.
interesting.
And even looking at the deer, because what I was shooting through was literally just open airspace. Because looking at the deer, the grass on the ground where they were laying wasn't really moving a whole lot.
Hmm.
To imply that they were pretty, in an area that wasn't get exposed to the wind, but it was all that stuff in between that was pushing that bullet.
That's an interesting thing, and something that I definitely need to learn more about in general is even if you can predict the
Yeah,
wind, like how to use that to compensate. But yeah, that's really
yeah.
interesting. I mean, how would you ever know in a situation like that?
Man, I mean, there's without going down a total rabbit hole, there's ways you can do it by reading mirage in like some of the environments where you're actually like glassing something. The guys that are really good at shooting long range, which I am not, it's just not my world.
Hmm.
Um, they can actually read wind speed by like if you ever take your binos on a really warm day and just look at like a blacktop or something like that out there at distance, you'll see that mirage. And if it's you'll see it moving like right to left, left to right, or whatever, which is your wind direction. And then you'll see like different spacings in those lines. It'll look like, spaced out or closer together. There's a way that the guys that are great at long range shooting can actually predict
Hmm.
wind speed based on how close those mirage lines are to one another.
That's
It's
pretty
way
sweet.
over my head, and it's stuff that I really don't know anything about, but I'm fortunate to work with a lot of guys that are great at long range shooting, and they've talked about that, and it's just like it's totally different world,
I'm sure you
you
guys
know.
have podcasts about stuff like that too, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. We've got a whole long range series. I think it's a 4 episode series of just beginner long range shooting out to like the F class guys that are shooting, out to like extreme long range. And when I say that's ELR, so that's like well past 1,000 yards. Some of those guys are pushing, like some guys can shoot a mile, which is just bizarre to me.
It's sweet. It's sweet, and I think where it really gets interesting is it's not at that point, like, well, before that point, but definitely at that point. It's not about how steady and how smooth your trigger pull is even anymore. It's about understanding all these different variables that we're talking about, and that's like you said, where it's totally
Oh
gone over
man,
my head too, because
yeah,
I don't know anything about any of that stuff really.
yeah. There's just this environmental aspect to long range shooting that, to your point, it becomes less about the gun, the system that you're controlling. Not to minimize the importance of that, but it becomes even more important on your ability to read environmental indicators.
Hmm.
But yeah, man. I mean, so anyways, that's why I missed those two shots. And after kind of like that's the cool thing is having it on film, we could go back and look at it and actually understand what happened there. So we started making a play at the second group of deer, and Mark had got a glimpse at them before. Like I still hadn't really seen like what they were. I knew there were bucks in there. I didn't know what the bucks were, And Mark's like, oh man, one of those things is an absolute giant, like absolute giant. We're thinking the buck from day one, you know? So the best way to describe this is like, it looks fairly flat once you're up on this ridge top, but there's little rocky outcroppings up there that a deer can hide in. Very similar to like your North Dakota buck a couple years ago. Like if anyone's hunted like the Badlands areas, you'll see those like sheer drop offs. And basically, the way to describe that then is as you're coming over a drop off, you can see the things that are down, but you can't see what's directly under you, unless you get literally right on the edge and look straight down. So I had seen the back of a deer kind of creep behind this rock. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I know that's where the group of deer are. Took my backpack off, got my ears in, I've got my gun kind of loaded and ready to go. And I'm just like creeping up there with my gun, with my backpack, wanting to shoot off the backpack. And kind of like losing elevation. And with, as I kept decreasing my elevation, that would open up more for me to see below me. And I see a doe, and I've got no cover at this point. Like I'm just in the wide open, but all the deer, I'm up above them, and they're looking below them. They're all bedded. I mean, it's literally the perfect situation. So I'm just like creeping, and there's a doe out on the point, looking out over the valley where they're back to me, and then I see a nice buck, look in that same kind of position, looking out over the valley, and I'm like, okay, that's a nice buck, one that I will definitely shoot, but I know that really big one's in here. So I'm still kind of creeping down, trying to find this big one, kind of like hunting my way down. But this is all like, you know, you're just ready to go at any minute. And basically,
now, at any point, are you trying to throw sand in Mark's eyes or anything so you can get the big one and he doesn't?
So Mark basically told me, he's like, hey man, I've shot these things before. I want you to shoot one. So he's like, you're up. He's like, no matter what, he's like, you're shooting first, even after totally airballing those shots at that other one. He's like, you're up.
That's pretty cool of him.
Yeah. So
he's a cool dude, you know. So.
He is cool after all. Yep. So I'm kind of like creeping down and get to the edge. And before I can find this big buck, all of a sudden, I don't know if I must have kicked a rock or something, made some noise. All of a sudden, that buck, the smaller of the two, I still haven't found the big one. I haven't even gotten eyes on him yet. All of a sudden, the smaller one just whips his head back and is looking right at me. And I'm like, I have to make a decision right now. And I'm like, I know that big one is in here, but I mean, the sand is falling out of the hourglass real fast at this point, and I need to make a decision at this exact moment. So when that buck snapped around, he's still laying down, but you can just, how you can read a buck's body language.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it's time.
I mean, his eyes are real wide, and he's like, exactly, just like ready to make a move at any second. So
he's probably more or less waiting to see what you're gonna do before he makes his move. Even he knows now something's up.
Yeah. So I was out of moves. There was nothing I could do to continue looking for that big buck. So right away, gun comes up on the backpack. I checked with the camera guys for like a split second if they were maybe recording, and I shot. And this thing is like right on the edge. I mean, when I say edge, like if he runs to the edge, he is going to free fall down 500 feet into that thick, crazy alder bushes, and it's just going to be potentially impossible to find him. And I've got in the back of my head, the way that Alaska works is if you draw blood on an animal, you fill your tag on that animal. I had 2 tags, but that you don't exactly want to like waste a tag on something that you can't recover, So I'm on him. I shoot. I know I hit him. Like I can just hear that like pop. He stands up. He doesn't look good, and I mean, in true fashion, shot him 2 more times. It's actually kind of hilarious footage, like how fast it sounds. Like it's boom, boom, boom. Look at the bolt action rifle.
Nobody's surprised though,
Yeah, exactly. So and I just did not want him getting over that edge. So I shot him once, shot him the second time, and then he was definitely done. And I put 1 more in him and it anchored him. At that, Mark is like, point my gun straight up in the air, unload it, and Mark slides right in front of me, and he's just kind of sliding down, and I'll never forget it. I'm like, all of a sudden this buck appears out of nowhere. I'm like, Mark, giant buck. And that thing like those shots are echoing down that valley. Even though the initial impact, like the initial percussion is above that deer, I think that it was just so that deer had no idea where that sound was coming from. It runs right at us. Gets to like 60 yards and like turns, and like I'll forever have this thing etched in my memory. That thing like quarters towards us and looks the other way. Mark gets the gun on him and just boom, and just folds this thing. And I mean, it is an absolute full velvet, absolute giant blacktail. So we're just like over the moon. We're excited. We're freaking out. Mark almost passes out. I've got the most hilarious video of him, like the life like fading from his face. He was kind of, we
tell
didn't really
tell that part of the story, because it's so funny. You have to. You have to. Eric's already told me this small snippet of this story a couple weeks ago at the NWTF convention, but I feel like you gotta share it.
So it's hilarious. Like, we hadn't eaten anything that day, and that last like 100 yards was really intense. Like, it was no stopping. You're kind of making moves real quick because we knew one of those deer was actually up and moving. We didn't know what the whole group was doing. We didn't want them to get off that point where we could shoot them. So we're like exerting a ton of energy to all lead up to that shot. I don't think Mark breathed from like the moment we saw those deer to the moment he pulled the trigger. He pulls the trigger, and I turned around and I'm like, dude, you just shot a giant. And I like hit him in the shoulder. And I'll never forget how, like, it just felt like his whole body kind of whipped back. And he looked super pale. He's like, oh, give me a second, the old Stan Potts line. Give me a second. He just, like, his whole face is white.
And you're probably not even registering that, like, anything other than the fact that we just killed 2 bucks is happening in your brain at all. Well, yeah. I know that's happening because I know you. So yeah. I know you're freaking out. You're not registering that he's kind of in a weird space.
And that's where this video comes in. I'm so disconnected from how Mark is doing that I just pulled out my phone to like capture that moment. I wanted to have like our reaction to this whole thing. So I'm like filming us, and the camera guys and myself were all like kind of fist pumping. And then there's Mark. He looks like he all of a sudden in the span of like 20 seconds ages 28 years. And the life slowly fades out of his face.
I mean, it's mean because he's obviously like not feeling himself, but it's also funny now because we know he's okay. But the best way I can describe it is he looks confused. Like, he just looks like he doesn't even know what's going on. He's just kind of like, this is fun, I think. Just looks like he's going to pass out, though.
Yeah, man. And that's, I think, where it was headed. He never did pass out. So we kind of like regrouped. He got a like insulated jacket on, like a down puffy jacket. We just sat up there for maybe 5 minutes, got some water in us, ate a quick granola bar. Everyone's then feeling good. We go down, we recover these things. Mark's is an absolute giant. Mine's a real nice one too. And we're just super pumped. We start snapping some quick pictures, and again, true Kodiak fashion, the weather just like switches on us. And what blew in was the craziest storm I've ever been exposed to while staying outside. Like, I've seen crazy storms, like when, I mean, even when we lived in Iowa, like we had a tornado come through town when we lived down there. But nothing that you ever had to be out in the elements in, and that's what this was. And just like gale force winds. I mean, I don't even know what the wind speeds, I don't even know what to guess, but I do know that it ripped the pack cover off one of our camera guys, and that pack cover, like a kite, just was like instantly gone. And within like seconds, it ruined a Sony FX3 camera, like just like that,
Jeez.
I mean, it was intense. So we're packing these things out. We get back to the tent at like 10:30 at night. And I mean, it's been dark, or 11:30 at night. It's been dark for forever. Sawyer, Brad, and Jason are kind of like lighting lanterns in their tents just to like show kind of like a beacon of like, hey, here's where we need to go. I mean, obviously we had our maps, but guys, phones are dying. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
phones are getting soaked. So we're trying to be mindful of like, you know, not ruining our devices.
Yeah, like what if situation at that point. Like you got to be careful that
Oh
you're
yeah,
it's the what if is close to reality all of a sudden.
totally. So we finally get back to camp. We see the tents. I mean, it was just reassuring to see that the tents were there,
Yeah.
And we got back to camp. I stripped down to just, my base layers. Because I mean, you're literally soaked. And I had the best rain gear out there, and it's not that rain gear's fault. It's, you're packing this thing out, so you're sweating from within,
Ugh.
and it's just literally, it's raining sideways. There were places where it was like, it just unbelievable. I remember Mark when we were on this like like blade type ridge, and he's like, if you start sliding, just lay flat and get your trekking poles in the ground. Like that was a real conversation that we had,
Mm-hmm.
and he's heard stories of people getting literally just blown off those peaks, and those were the real thoughts that we kind of had as we were packing out. So, dude, it was incredible, literal adventure of a lifetime. We all ended up filling our tags, and the next day, all of a sudden, just Bluebird Day. We I have this really cool video of every piece of clothing that I brought up there, just like airing out and drying on like trekking poles and stuff like that. And the reason that video is so awesome is it just shows how like Kodiak can be such a providing place, but can also be a place that just takes from you. And in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, it was given back from what it took from us the night before, and it was incredible, man. I never in a million years would have expected to ever go there. Growing up, I remember as a kid, my dad showed me an outdoor life magazine that had Kodiak Island in it. And I'm like 8 years old at the time. I can tell you exactly where I was when he like showed me that magazine. And I had always wanted to go experience Kodiak and never expected to do that, let alone at this stage of life where I can like actually do it. I figured it'd be a pipe dream for me to do like 15 years from now,
Right.
so just super fortunate. Trip of a lifetime. I mean, truly wild place.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like true adventure and true risk-taking adventure, which
Yeah,
like we do that when we're elk hunting, but this sounds like, different even from the standpoint of when we're elk hunting, we can likely hit a trail quickly
sure.
where, you're not hearing a plane even on
Yeah,
Kodiak. And
yeah,
that's definitely a different aspect of it that, don't get me wrong, there's been plenty of situations elk hunting where we're so far back, it's like, if
oh
somebody's
yeah,
really hurt, it's going to get really crazy really fast. And I mean, you carry an in reach and stuff like that to make sure that in those worst case scenarios, like I'm talking somebody's bleeding really badly or something like that, like that's when that's necessary. But, just but on the other hand, like the comfort side of it to me is, well, there's always the trail down there. So it's like, even if
yeah,
somebody like rolls an ankle really bad and needs to go out, it's like we can probably just bump into somebody with a horse or,
sure.
somebody else to just help get gear out, whatever. But in this situation, you're up on that knife, knife edge ridge, packing out meat, and I'm just visualizing the dark and the wind and the rain and
Yeah,
like how scary that. I mean, that stuff's truly scary, but when you're done with those situations, they're some of your best memories, I guess.
for sure. I mean, it is something that like when I'm laying in bed at night and like your mind's like decompressing from a day at work or something like that. And it's like if you ever want to like just disconnect and actually start falling asleep, it's like that's where my mind goes.
Oh,
And it's like just to that, I'll like look back at a couple videos, I'll put myself at that like in that headspace, and next thing you know, it's like it really puts things in perspective.
I've really, in the last couple years, realized how much of a daydreamer I am, and like also
Hmm.
exactly like you said, I fall asleep because I am such a big daydreamer. I can just be elk hunting or turkey hunting or stalking in on a buck if I want to be. Whatever I'm excited about coming up, I'll just put myself there and start visualizing executing the plan as well. And
Yep.
there's, you know, some real great benefits to that, from being able to fall asleep to also executing the plan when you're in that situation. And I'm sure you had sports coaches that told you as well, like, go home and visualize tonight. Go home,
Yep.
visualize making that tackle. Get fielding that ground ball, making that basket, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And it's the same goes for hunting. I think visualizing is, for one, it's a therapeutic thing, and then on the other hand, it's just really beneficial from that standpoint too. If you execute the plan in your mind well beforehand, and you just visualize that arrow going in or pulling that trigger smooth, whatever it may be, man, there's seriously something to that. There really is.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, if you've seen it there and done it before in your mind, it makes the actual act of doing it just that much easier. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, man, it was incredible. I mean, it was.
What about bears?
Oh man, yeah. So the first day there, we got off the plane, we set up base camp, and we actually tried hiking up that first night or that first afternoon, and we got totally like cliffed out. Like we had what we thought was to your point about like trails and stuff. Like there are no trails out there. Like it is just untouched wilderness of, hey, we know we need to get up to this peak. There is no way to do it. And there's no like formula to get there other than just try it out. And so we got cliffed out that first evening. So we came back to camp. We were kind of dejected a little bit. It was raining that whole day. We got back to camp. My back was bothering me a little bit. Like I did a bunch of like prep on the front end of this thing, and maybe about a month and a half before the hunt, I don't know what I did. I'm sure something like a disc in my back. Mm-hmm. And stupid thing, I was literally just adjusting a stake on the tent, and I just like bent down to like adjust it, and I felt my back just kind of like tweak a little bit. Yep, exactly. And I was just dealing with that a little bit, so I was kind of in like a little like more jocked out than anything else. I was just like unsure. I'm like, man, this is something that I've wanted to do my whole life, and now here we are, the first day I've got this to deal with. So anyways, we're sitting at camp. I'm doing some stretches, kind of trying to make my back feel better, which it thankfully, like, that didn't become a thing. My back ended up being a non-issue. But we're sitting there eating freeze-dried meals that first night. Everyone's kind of having a good time. We're, just talking about the week ahead. And all of a sudden we look out across the bay, and there's like a Volkswagen just like walking down the shore of just a huge sow brown bear with 3 cubs behind her. And they're walking like right, if they're going to continue on that path, like we are on that beach that they are headed towards, and they're going to be right at us. So that night, those bears actually ended up kind of going off and took a little bit of a different direction. The reason that those bears were down in that area is because the salmon were running like crazy, and the bears are on the fish at that time of year. Basically, you've got the salmon running out of the big water, trying to go upstream to spawn and die. That's how this is the life cycle of a salmon. And the bears are just taking advantage of that stuff now. So they're localized down low. We had a bear fence around our tent, specifically around our gear tent. We didn't have enough fences for like everybody's tent individually. But it's like, man, you look at those fences and like the hot zone fences that we used to put up for Bill when we were at Midwest Whitetail, those things are more robust than these bear fences that you've got up there, because you got to be mindful of weight and all that stuff. So, I mean, it just was kind of an eerie feeling that first night going to bed. And then on day 3, we're sitting up at our spike camp, and we can see our base camp, but it's like probably 3-4 miles away. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're 2,000 feet above it. There's a ton of open air between us and that. And we see 2 adult bears, and then was it 3 adult bears? Maybe. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a sow with 2 cubs from last year. So they would have been like 1.5-year old cubs. And those ones were literally just going straight at our base camp. Jeez. So the whole time when we were, the rest of the week up there, we're like, we don't even know if we have anything to come back to, Yeah. And I mean, there are areas where when you're coming down through that stuff, you can't see the distance of like from where I'm at to my computer screen in front of me. And it's like spooky. Like everyone's yelling, "Hey bear," and saying stupid stuff. But it's like every time someone yells, "Hey bear," it's like it really, you feel the gravity of what you're actually saying. Yeah. Cause it's like, dude, you don't know. And I mean, it can be on you like that. It's like, it's like jungle type habitat. And it's just absolutely wild.
I've seen some videos of it. It looks, yeah, like a pretty terrifying scene just to be walking through stuff that you just can't see very far in. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
likes, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody likes that, but like, it's not a really fun thing to do, even in just a country where there's not even a black bear, let alone when there
For
might
sure,
be a
man.
damn brown bear around the brush.
I'm going to try sharing my screen here. I'm going to airdrop this thing to me because I
Yeah.
got a video of that first group of bears on the beach kind of coming up. And then I've got some stuff too that I can send you that just kind of shows like how thick that stuff is, because it's just like it doesn't really put it in perspective until you actually like see it in video.
Oh yeah.
I mean it's unreal. Like just you cannot see hardly 10 feet.
What
Okay,
was
I'm gonna airdrop this thing.
What was the protocol if one busts out the brush at point blank and comes at you? Gun, spray?
Yeah.
What's the move?
So
what's the plan?
my plan for myself was going to be spray. I know I'm not great with a pistol. I don't really shoot a pistol. I don't own a pistol. I had every intention of bringing one up there, but I'm like, man, this is just an extra thing that, like, in the heat of the moment, I'm not even going to go for this. I'm going to go for the spray because I feel like it's a little bit more forgiving. I had it mounted right on my chest. Granted, there's ways that you can mount your handgun to your chest. But so that was my plan. Mark had a handgun too, and spray. So I think between everybody, we had a handful of handguns. I think we had, like, just in the group of Mark, myself, Coop, and Mike, we had 3 handguns and 4 things of bear spray. So we were ready. And just if the threat did present itself, but man, it wasn't something that we wanted to encounter. That is for dang sure.
No, it's like it's probably more fun to say that you hunted in bear country than it is to say you had to fight one off. I mean, it would be a crazy story.
Exactly,
like, there's
man.
obviously some super cool, crazy, intense stories that people have, but like, I mean, certainly memorable things like that whole story with Ranella and and I think Remy was there, and they like had the one run right through them as they were eating lunch or something. Like, those stories are sweet, man. But it's also like a moment where you got to be certain you're dead, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if this is going to work here. I'm trying to share my screen. Let's see here. Share screen. Window. QuickTime Player. Share. All right, can you see this?
I don't see it, actually. Which is kind of weird, because I figured if it says, you could see mine when I shared mine.
Yeah. Here, let's see if this works.
That's it. There it is.
You got it?
Yep.
This is just a video from my cell phone, but like that's that initial sow with 3 cubs.
That's crazy. The cubs I thought were the big ones at first, and then I realized that mom was up there in front, totally different color. Yeah, that's wild, dude. So that stuff above them is kind of the thick stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. And like it's hard to even like show perspective of how steep that stuff is, but man, it's like to get from where those bears are to up on like maybe that upper edge where you can see that transition of those, like that woolly, like brushy stuff, like that's going to take you probably 45 minutes just to get up to that stuff. Jeez. And then getting up on top of that, I mean, I've got some more videos here that I can pop in to kind of like show perspective, but it's incredible how thick that stuff is. Here, I'm gonna send another one in here.
There's a decent chance that I draw an elk tag for Grizz Country this year, so we'll see. I might be having
Oh
my
yeah,
first experience with it as well, and I've been kind of mentally prepping and trying to educate myself on it, and I mean, it seems like one of these deals where obviously there's inevitably more risk, right? But
yeah,
if you're
yep,
really conscious of it at all times, there's a solid chance that you can avoid really bad situations if you're conscious of it. But still, with that being said, I mean, you're dealing with a wild animal that's, you know, a truck basically.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, no, like Nature is Metal just shared a Instagram post the other day. One of those things, like that's one of my favorite accounts to follow,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
like, holy crap! Like those things are, they are enormous, and they're just you don't stand a chance. Like
No.
it's entirely up to the bear what it wants to do in that
Right.
situation.
I mean, unless you just straight skull shoot one, and hit him right in the brain if he's full
Yeah,
charge. I mean, even with spray, and I'd say spray is your best bet because I'm in the same
yeah,
boat. It's like I'm probably not going to just, make a perfect shot on a bear charging me, especially at point blank. But like
yeah,
the spray is going to be your best bet. And then, you know, just having a plan, always knowing your downwind side. I mean, there's all these things that can go into it. And there's tons of ways you can educate yourself by reading and watching videos online. And I'm sure you
definitely.
guys did plenty of that. And
We
having
did,
somebody
yeah.
that has experience, like with Mark, did anybody else have experience in the area or just Mark?
Yeah, so Mark has been up there. That was his third time, and Brad and Jason from Argali, they'd done that. I think that was their third year in a row doing that exact hunt.
That's
So
sweet.
those guys are super. I mean, they know the game, they know how to prepare for it, and all that stuff. It's also hilarious when you go with somebody that has done something before. The difference in like gear that they bring, like I just felt like I brought so much, and I left a bunch back at the hotel. I'm like, there's no way I can even fit this stuff on the plane, on the
Hmm.
bush plane. So I left a ton of stuff back at the hotel, and I'm glad I did because I was just lucky that I could crosswalk my gear list with what like Brad and Jason, because those guys are really dialed in. They're very minimalistic too, which I think is a good thing because you always bring more than you need. Like you're always going to bring too much. You're never going to
Hmm.
bring too little.
Hmm.
So even though it feels uncomfortable taking this stuff out, and like I'm going to leave my soft shell jacket, I'm going to leave an extra, layer of base layers. Like I'm going to leave that stuff. It feels uncomfortable. If it feels that way, it's probably a good thing
Hmm.
because you've already got it. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's like you want to flirt with the line, right? You want
Yep.
to have just enough, but you also don't want to bring so much that you're going to bog yourself down. And to your point about that, it is funny to look at our packs now compared to when we first started elk hunting in 2019. It's just there's all these little things that, we've ditched over the years that, we've found ways too to divvy certain things out, right? Instead
Yeah.
of everybody having 20, you know, not 20, well, I don't know, 20 feet of paracord,
Right.
one guy does, and then if that guy has paracord, then that guy doesn't have Luco tape or whatever. And it's like you kind of divvy those things out. And like another thing with hunting with a group in a backcountry setting that I've learned is important is knowing your teammates, knowing what
Yep.
guy is more likely to bring certain things and communicating that, right? Because if you're hunting together and you're spike camping and you're moving with camp on your back constantly,
Yep.
just knowing that, we're covered in these certain situations. And it is funny because out of our group of guys that elk hunt together, consistently, me, Ben, and Colin have done that the
Yep.
most together. And it's funny because I know their tendency is to bring a
Sure.
little bit more than me, so I can kind of skimp a little bit more.
Yep.
And I just think that that's, important to know because you don't all want to be carrying too much stuff because at a certain point,
Exactly.
if something does happen, somebody like, even if somebody's just hurting a little bit more, like they tweak their back up or they twist their
Right.
ankle enough to where it's like they can still maybe help and pack meat, but like you want to divvy out the pack a little bit. It's like you just don't want too much stuff. And I think that we've just continued to get better and better and probably will continue to get better and better at knowing each other's pack and what we got in there.
Definitely.
But it does
Yeah.
end up running some risk too this year. The thing that was pretty hilarious is all of a sudden we're like, oh, like, like last year we had too much paracord. Well, all of a sudden
Right.
this year we're kind of like we can barely get this stuff tied up, and it's
Yeah.
just so stupid. But yeah, I mean, knowing what your buddies have is really important. But
Yeah. I mean, that's all the stuff that like you don't really like as somebody that did that for the first time this year, you don't really think about how much organizational stuff you got to do on the front end. Like putting together a Google Doc that you're sharing with your buddies, like, hey, here's what I'm bringing. This is what you're bringing. I mean, those are things that like you just don't think about until you're actually doing it. Like it's easy to sit there and do all this research. Like that's the camp I'd put myself in. Like somebody that always wanted to do more of like the actual like backpack style hunts.
mm-hmm.
And I felt like I consumed a ton of content about it. I was like mentally ready for it. But then it's like once you're actually in that planning phase, it's like, okay, not bringing this, not bringing that. And hindsight, if I was to do it over, which I 100% want to do that again, like I would be able to pare down so much. Like I brought way too many redundant things that just like either stayed at the hotel or like I never even brought out onto like when we went into the field, or things that like I brought with me that I ended up never even touching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, you can save so much weight, space, all that stuff just by like being a little bit more minimalistic.
Uh-huh.
And I think people can get by with a lot more than what they give themselves credit for.
Yes, I'd agree with that completely. And then on the flip side of that, though, too, there are little things that one guy may have on the first experience, or a guy you just can expect that he's going to have it every time. Like Colin is kind of that guy where he always pulls something out of the pack where you're like, dude, how did you think of that? And we didn't even really know he had it, type of deal. Like he's always got that extra little thing. Or like Ben this year brought something that was super clutch. When we were cutting up elk, he had these gloves that were knife proof. And
oh, no kidding.
I mean, I guarantee that at least prevented some knife nicks. You sit there
Totally.
cutting on an elk for a long time, having a glove like that's just extra insurance that you're not going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And again, if you're close to the truck, it maybe isn't that big of a deal. But in some of these situations where you're not even in, hours of being in contact with another human, you
For
gotta
sure, man.
definitely take that stuff pretty seriously. And I just think that in general, it's just a balance. And the one thing that's funny along the lines of like the planning and everything, the thing that always cracks me up is we've done this before. We've been there. We know what we're expecting. We've got the list. But to actually get out of the truck and take off walking always takes this whole extra set of
totally
steps to get actually going. And we always end up being way later starting than what we think. Last year, when Jake shot the bull, we woke up at like 6 in the morning and didn't leave the truck till like 10:30.
Sure.
Then this year, we took a day between hunting with Grant and going back out with just the three of us, me, Ben, and Colin. And we took a break and we went to town and we were like, oh, we'll wash our clothes up and we'll take a shower and kind of reorganize. Took the entire day.
Oh, absolutely.
The entire day to do a reset. Because I had to shoot my bow. I had to pack up hunting stuff versus filming stuff. And Ben had to, focus more on being the main camera versus just, taking pictures and getting a second angle and being a call. All these like little things kind of change about your role. And it ends up just taking forever. And it's, I don't know, to me, it's fun, but it's also a lot of work and a lot of thought, and it can be kind of stressful. But then also once you get going, for the most part, it's like, we're fine. We got more than enough stuff.
And I think you can put yourself in that headspace a little bit. Like if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, well, like I don't have this hunt planned this year, next year, like, but I do want to do it. People can start putting themselves in that headspace by just the way that they approach their deer and turkey hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I'm going to leave the truck at 6 a.m. and I'm not going to come back until it's half hour after whatever dark or whatever that timeline is. And you're going to get that much better at operating in the moment, saying what you need, what you don't need. And then when you do get to that point, however long from now it is, you're going to feel like you've kind of been there before.
Yeah. Dude, it's my favorite thing to do though, is just be out there and not worry about coming back. Like,
Oh man,
ah,
absolutely.
there really is just something that's extra special about that to me, and I really want to start incorporating that into whitetail hunting.
Dude, I was just going to say that. I mean, that's how I actually approached when I went to Illinois. I killed a buck early in Wisconsin this year, and didn't have a buck tag for November back home. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go to Illinois. I live in an area of Wisconsin where I can jump over to the Illinois border. It's a investment. It's an hour and 45 minutes for me to get down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get there, but it's not something that like you're not going there for the morning hunt, coming home for the afternoon, and then going back. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
down there for the day. And the way that I looked at it was, I'm not going to necessarily like sit all day, but I'm going to be in the woods from an hour before sunrise to an hour after sunrise every single day. And man, I like there were days where like the day that I killed my buck, I actually moved two different times that day. Like I got set up in the morning, um, had a couple deer come by, adjusted at like 10 a.m. Had another buck come by, got down, adjusted again. When I'm saying like adjusting, I mean I'm talking like 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like eight. That last adjustment was literally like a tree that I could have like thrown something at and hit. But I knew that was where I needed to be. And sure enough, an hour and a half after I made that second adjustment, the buck that I ended up killing came right at that tree. I shot him at like 6 yards.
Perfect.
And if I wouldn't have been there all day, kind of like making those micro moves, that's the difference of that thing skirting you at 43 yards and trying to, squeeze one through at a shot you probably shouldn't be taking, or him coming right up the gut and just like the deer is dead.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like planning for all day too, just because it allows you to have flexibility no matter what the situation calls for. Because there's been plenty of times I use that Ohio buck with Ben
Yeah.
as reference all the time for so many things. It's one of my favorite hunts ever because of all the little details that
Yep.
are into it. But that was a day where we really didn't have a exact plan, but then we bumped this buck, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is where the whole focus is, and we had
Totally.
enough to stay out there all day. And I don't necessarily know that that was the plan. It was and it wasn't, right? It's like we have the ability to, but if we want to pull out and do something else, we can also do that. And I just, we designed this new pack
Yeah.
for exactly that, to
Yep.
be able to just go out and have everything you need for a whole day of bow hunting on the ground, or saddle hunting, or turkey hunting, or shed
Yeah.
hunting. It's, to me, the ideal day pack. And I just like having just enough. But again, there's that fine line too of, I'm not the type of guy to, honestly, Eric, I don't even really bring a knife every time, because
Yeah.
I don't necessarily I expect to not get one every time. And if
Yeah.
I get one, then it's a bonus. And if I got to walk out, so be it. And like on that day, that's exactly what we did when we were
Totally.
in Ohio. We walked back out. But, just having enough to eat and drink is really important, because then you don't get yourself in a weird situation where you shoot a big buck and you're confused on Kodiak Island like Mark.
Exactly, man. I mean, you need to be able to bring that stuff with you.
I think back to Midwest whitetail days.
Yeah,
I'm like, did we even bring water ever?
dude.
Like maybe
Never, never.
maybe like one of these. But now I
Or
drink
like the
3 of
12
these.
ounce, yeah, the little 12-ounce thing that you get at like the Nestle water bottle or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you'd have one of those. Oh yeah, I'll be good. I got this for the day.
I think back on that and I'm like, how did we even survive? Like, if I did that now, I'd feel so. And I did at the time too. I just don't think that I knew what feeling good felt like, You
Oh
drink
yeah,
water all day. At the bare minimum, if you got enough water, you cannot eat all day. We've all not ate all day for
yeah,
various reasons
yep,
outside of hunting. But
yeah,
then, yeah, I don't know. That stuff's wild. I mean, even in 2018, when Logan Wright and I shot that buck,
Yeah.
We were canoed in, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
10, 11 o'clock, and in the video, I say, well, we got to go get some food and water because we don't want to be in the same situation we were in yesterday, because
Yep.
the day before we did the same thing. Why did we not learn from that?
Right.
It's like it
Exactly.
took like 10 of those times to like suffer through a day before we really learned that, okay, if we just bring this stuff, we're going to be better. And it sounds, man, it sounds silly. I'm sure there's people listening that are, wow, I don't need that. And it's like, hey, I used to be that way too, but at the
Yeah.
bare minimum, bring yourself some water,
Yeah. I
weapon
know.
tags, and water.
Yeah. And even the stuff that you bring with, like that you eat ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like I remember, to go back to Midwest whitetail, like how we were eating. I mean, dude, just everything wrong with what you're eating, what you're putting in your body. And man, dude, I specifically paid for that a lot. It's like it's way easier to, eat clean and feel good than do option B, and then you're like, man, I feel like crap out here. I got to get back to the truck, or I gotta, you got a headache sitting out there. You're dehydrated. Like that's the worst, and
I think
it's
if you
all
don't
stuff you
even,
can control.
yeah, and I don't even think like for me, I don't even know that I knew that I felt as bad as I did. But all those little things are amplified when you don't have enough food or water, and you are really more likely to pass out. I've done that. I've
Yeah,
passed out there. I can drop some
yeah,
footage in right here of me passing out in New York. You've heard that story.
yep, oh yeah,
So that happened. Actually, Keith passed out this pronghorn season, which we should probably save that for when he's present because I feel like
yeah,
I just told Eric this story, but it's pretty hilarious. I'll have to get the pronghorn crew on to do that one. But
totally, man.
we, look back on those situations where people aren't feeling good, or even just that. I get the worst feeling when I'm cold all day and I'm sitting
Yep,
there fighting to be warm. And I'm usually pretty light on clothing because a lot of times I'm moving. So as soon as I start sitting, I start really fighting. And I'm constantly just flexing and just trying to keep my body moving as much as I can in little ways. But then you get back to the truck, you get the heat on you. And a major mistake I do all the time is I get back to the truck and then I stop drinking water. But then
yeah,
I get really warm, and then all of a sudden I go right off the deep end of starting to get dehydrated, and it's so
yep,
crazy how quickly you can feel like crap. But imagine, you know, back in the days when we didn't carry the water, you get back and your body's doing the same thing, but you haven't been drinking. It's like no wonder we felt as bad as we did, and I've definitely noticed an increase in ability from the mental side of things and the
yeah,
physical side of things since we've started doing this for all of us. I've
yeah,
noticed it with everybody in our crew and all of our friends that we hunt
yep,
with. It's like everybody's performing way better, and the ability to push it on low energy, lack of sleep. I'm not necessarily promoting that, but that's our life. I mean, we're
right,
pushing it,
exactly.
and day in and day out you have a longer like time frame before you have to do that day of reset
For sure.
and take a break. Still necessary, but not as often. 2018 spring is one that I think we hunted. I think that was the year that we hunted in Wisconsin,
Yeah,
right?
yep, definitely.
So I hunted with Hayden one morning on that trip, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
he was finally just like, dude, he's like, you aren't allowed to go hunting. And this is back still when he worked at Legendary. Like, not
yeah.
he didn't work with us. I was just filming him just for fun, and it was like
I do remember this, 100%.
however long into the season. And at that point too,
Yeah,
that first year we didn't even hunt nearly as much as we would like in 2023 or
right.
22 or 21. That year we were definitely taking bigger, longer breaks. Like more often we were taking these week-long breaks, and that
Yep,
just goes to show how poor my health was. And I mean, there's other factors in that as well, but a lot of that comes down to not drinking water, not eating healthy. And I'm
yeah,
not saying I sit here and eat perfectly healthy in hunting season all year. I don't, but like
yeah.
these little things make a difference.
And for you, I mean, I think what's interesting too is like the tick scare that you had. Like, didn't you say that kind of was like The little like switch for you that you're like, man, like, now that I'm kind of dealing with this, like, I'm done drinking, like all that stuff. Like, I think cleaning up those habits, man, goes a long ways. I mean, another one, you always hear Tony Peterson always talks about this, and how, like, when he was in a different stage of life, like, his habits weren't great. He kind of grew up and figured it out, and I mean, I think that is a great example of like exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, he was a big inspiration for me. Like Tony and I, outside of the recorded stuff that we've done, we've had a lot of really awesome conversations.
Yeah,
I just really respect him and look up to him a lot. And we were talking one day. I was driving back east from Colorado, and this has been before the whole tick thing and everything, and it might have been right before it. Like I might have been on my way to turkey hunt, and he brought up the fact that he hadn't drank anymore, or like he had quit drinking however many years previously, and I was like, man, I'm kind of thinking about doing that. And a lot of times during hunting season, I don't, especially turkey, because they're super short days,
Yeah.
don't drink.
Yeah.
So that wasn't terribly abnormal, but I didn't drink that whole season. Then I got Lyme disease with the tick, and I mean, for those that know what I'm talking about, it's like a hangover that you drank anything and everything the night before, and you got that like nail in your brain. That's what I felt for. I mean, it felt initially way worse than that, even for like 3 or 4 days. It was terrible, super high fever, really sick. But then for 2 weeks while I was taking the doxycycline, which is the antibiotic, I just had every morning that hangover headache, and it's like I kind of don't want to drink anymore because I don't feel like having that headache. So I kind of stopped for a variety of reasons. That played into it a lot. But yeah, since then I mean, and I'm not against drinking by any means. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, as well as anybody, I love drinking, but
right.
But I haven't done it for, Rick, in 2 days, I believe. I have to look at my calendar to be sure and actually look at photos from the last night. But I'm pretty sure in 2 days it'll be 3 years exactly.
Jeez, man, that's awesome.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Just thinking of all those days sitting at your house, just like hammering whatever I was. Miller Lite, whiskey. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about it. But I also, one thing that's pretty funny is I've noticed as you age, you can still get hungover by not drinking, just if you don't sleep as much as you normally do. It's kind of weird. I didn't realize how much of a hangover is just sleep deprivation.
For sure. This watch I got, it's one of those like Garmin Instincts or whatever.
I should get one of those.
Dude, I love it because it tracks all the stuff that you're kind of talking about right now. Like in the app, it talks about if you wear it when you sleep, which I was kind of wasn't sure how I was going to feel like sleeping with a watch on. Like I just obviously hadn't ever done it. I always took a watch off, but I wanted to do it because it tracks everything on the app, and like it gives you these like a body battery score, a sleep score, all that stuff. And obviously it's an app from a watch. How accurate is it? That's the question. I actually feel like it's pretty decently accurate. Like when I get a good night's sleep, if I, get 7-8 hours of sleep and, I'm not tossing and turning, like I feel refreshed. And then it's specifically on those days when I know that I feel better, I'll be like, man, I'm curious. And I'm going to the app and checking it. It'll be like, you had a great night's sleep. Your body battery is at like a 90, 95%. And that stuff makes a huge difference, man. It's stuff that I've just kind of started to get a little bit more aware of, just, and this has been a big part of it because it actually is something that puts a tangible number to it. You have it on your phone. It's easy to use, and I like it for sure.
Dude, I think it's so funny too. I feel like, not to say these things that make anybody feel bad, not to make you be like, hey man, you're doing things wrong. Like,
right.
I guess I just think that it's more about to me, it's more about saying, hey, we've been on the other side of it, and this is how much better it feels now, And I don't know. When I was 21, 22, 23 especially, I look back on that and I'm like, I didn't even know how bad it had gotten until I look back and I can see it visibly, but I can also remember how I felt and how exhausted I would feel. And I would see a number on my phone of how far I was about to walk and be like, oh, it's like now.
Yeah, I got to walk a mile in.
Yeah, it's like make it infinite now. I don't care. It's fun and easy. And I think that is the benefit, right? It's fun when you feel good. It's not fun when you feel terrible, but
exactly. And you can set yourself up for that. Your actions dictate it, Yeah. So,
for sure.
But man, surgery tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. That's I'm actually terrified, Rick. I'm pretty nervous because
dude,
I've never had a major surgery like this. I've never really had a major injury. When I was playing football, I separated my shoulder, which is different than what's the other, like popping your shoulder out. Separating is, I believe it's the AC joint is what it is called.
Yep. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And you see your AC joint is that your collarbone where it goes up to your shoulder bone, and the separation is basically that thing kind of lifts off just a little bit. Yeah, I had the same thing.
Actually kind of tell if you look at my collarbone. I don't know how well you can see it on here, but this right side sticks up way higher than the other side, and it's pretty funny how that lasted, and I didn't really realize it, but
definitely
an athletic trainer told me one time, he's like, you separated your shoulder, and I was like, how'd you know that? And he's like, well, you can see your collarbone's different, and I looked in the mirror and was like, yeah, sure. It's
crazy, man.
Yeah. So never really anything much more major than that. I sprained an ankle one time, which made me miss a couple of baseball games until the swelling went down, and then played again. But surgery is man.
It's different.
I'll be interested to see what happens. Have you ever had any surgeries?
I never have, knock on wood. But the thing with like, to hopefully put your mind at ease here. It seems like the ACL stuff that's what it is, right? You got a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, it's insane how in like the sports medicine world, how they're getting guys like, they used to be like, not necessarily like it used to be way more severe than it is today. I feel like guys are getting those surgeries, and they're like, I'm sure you've had a million conversations with people that have had it. We were talking to Josh Ilderton at NWTF, and he's like, yeah, I had mine, and I was like, the next day back up walking, like they had me doing all this stuff, and it's crazy. It is absolutely insane how sports medicine and all that stuff kind of works, and they get you back up and rolling.
Yeah, the advancements too that I've heard is just crazy from 10 years ago even. My mom had the same surgery 9 or 10 years ago, and it's improved a lot since then, their confidence and everything, just going to the surgeon in the pre-op appointments and talking to him, it's like he seems not concerned at all, and he's also moving it around, and like I'm standing right now. I've been standing this whole time, so it's like I don't have any trouble doing anything standing or moving forward. It's just when I bend it all the way, that's where and bending it all the way and putting weight on it, I guess, like I'm a big, I'll just do it like making dinner. I'll just squat down on, and just kind of hang out in a squatting position. But I can't do that right now. But as far as like walking straight, dude, endless. I'll just go for, a lot of walking recently, but no pain. And it's weird to know that I'm going backwards. I think that's the biggest part of it that I'm a little bit afraid of, is I've worked so hard to get back to taking it so easy up to this point, which is hard for me. Totally. Because I've become, addicted to working out to the point of I need it. And now that I don't have it, it makes a dude go a little nuts.
Yeah. I think the good thing though is in your case, you've set yourself up in a good situation for having an active lifestyle before this, I mean, you with a torn ACL, it's probably you're way more mobile than like some of my best buddies without a torn
Oh
ACL.
yeah. I mean, I sent a text message along those lines to I think Warb the other day. Where it's like, I think I can still probably, walk further than a good bit of my friends.
Totally, man.
But
so what's the prognosis going to be then, like recovery wise? Like you're not turkey hunting at all then this spring?
I don't know. I'm keeping my expectation as that.
Yeah.
My guess is that I'll be able to pull something off late May. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'll probably hunt around Colorado some.
Yeah.
And then just depending, I mean, I might go to like Ohio or
Yep.
I don't know, just some places where I've kind of been before and have a little bit of confidence in just taking it easy, even on a ridge, just getting up on a ridge and taking a bogging road or something. I may try to do some of that, but at the same time, I'm just setting this expectation now that I'm not going to hunt because I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it might be a deal where I end up hunting a lot in the last month of the season, but my thing is too, and I think this is a hard thing to say now as things are getting closer and season has started for the rest of the guys, but like they're all in it now. They're down in Mississippi and they're starting and they're making videos and I'm doing podcast stuff, but it's not the same. It is not the same. And I'm definitely struggling with not letting myself just go off the deep end as far as just being anxious. I'm just super anxious for so many reasons. It's like we're starting the new podcast channel, so all my focus is on that. And then as soon as I take a break, I start thinking about the fact that I'm not turkey hunting. And then I start thinking about the fact that I'm about to have a surgery. And then I start thinking about the fact that am I even going to be able to work for a week, or am I just going to be in so much pain sitting on the couch? And between that and I'm doing PT, and I'm just, it's all
your
stuff,
mind wanders,
Yeah, it's all stuff that doesn't really matter. I know in the long run I'll be fine, but it doesn't change the fact that, especially, when you have the type of mind that does that in general, like my mind just carries things away quickly, but it'll be good. When I take a step back and I say, okay, be realistic with yourself, it's like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you're going to miss some turkey hunting, but hopefully you're back and you're, being able to, bust your ass again during fall season. And that's really
for sure
what the goal is, because I'm hoping to elk hunt again. Well, not hoping. I'm going to find a way to go elk hunting again. I think I'm probably going to. That's where I'll probably push it. I've been telling a lot of people, buddies and stuff, it's like, I've done a lot of turkey hunting. It's a little bit easier to swallow that.
Yeah.
If I missed elk hunting, on the other hand, like let's say this injury would have happened, on a trail run in August or something. Yeah. It's like, that would have been a way bigger deal to me just because I don't have that experience. And there's a little bit of, not a little bit, there's a lot of team dependency on that those hunts too, where like Ben and Colin absolutely expect me to go. Not to say they would really care. They'd obviously, if I couldn't, it is what it is, but that's a big part of it. Like they're expecting that to be a big part of the season. And I also just am excited about deer hunting, and that's just a never ending process. So I can just, I don't know, cut the losses for now and get back to it. And now, on the other hand, boy, 2024, I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to have a really hilarious time next year. I'm going to probably way overdo it.
Oh, man, there's no such thing. You can't overdo it.
Dude, Rick, you have to send me that video of you twisting the ankle.
It's coming in. Here it comes.
We were at the NWTF thing for those listening. I don't even know at this point how much of all of our BS session I'll keep or not, but either way, it's hilarious. But Rick is showing me this video, and you know how it is when your buddy just gives you that face, And he's like, you're going to laugh at this a lot. He just is giving me that face. I know this is going to be funny. He shows me this video, and I mean, it was the hardest I've laughed in a while. Is Rick chasing after this turkey?
It was.
Try to drop that in here somewhere.
Yeah, here we go. I just texted it to you. I'm going to airdrop it in here. And I'm going to set the stage here while this thing is transferring to my computer. So I was hunting with, I think you know the Identical Draw guys.
Yeah.
And so I was hunting with those guys last April in Nebraska. And we had killed a bird the night before. I shot one. And then the next morning we had we had these birds like totally put to bed. Like we knew right where they were. We were going to set ourselves up for what we thought was going to be a slam dunk off the roost. We got real tight to these things, and picture very open hardwoods. I mean, it's still like fairly mid to late April, but definite like still open hardwoods. I mean, you can't get too close to these things before you're just like going to be blowing them off the roost. So we got as close as we could get, which was very close, and we're underneath the cedar tree, and it is the world's most uncomfortable cedar. And everyone's probably done this where they sleep on their arm or something, and like when they wake up, their arm is asleep to the point where like you literally have no feeling. Like you can pick it up and like drop it, just dead weight on you. You can't feel anything. So as I'm sitting on this tree waiting for these birds to, show up, I mean, they're gobbling like crazy on the limb. And I am here. I'm just gonna pull this in. As we are, okay. So I'm gonna pause it here. You're seeing a bird in right in the frame. There's another one in front of it. This is after sitting in this position for probably about an hour. My left leg is entirely asleep. These birds come in. The one that you're about to see the shot here. So I shot at the bird on the right. The bird on the left there is the bird that I think Nate shot that one, just anchored it. I hit that bird on the right on that shot. And decently, like obviously he flies off there at the shot, but he just kind of like fluttered and then like hung up, was still very much alive, and I wanted to get on him right away. My leg is totally asleep. So I go to I plant my right foot, and the left foot has nothing. And I could not feel the leg. And there it just...
Help him out.
Dude, how hectic the camera focus is.
It's horrible. So like here's the crazy part. So as you see me tearing off after this thing, watch the left ankle. So like I cannot feel it at all. Like I'm clearly like limping already because I just have no feeling. No, hang on. Oh. Like look at the twist on that. The left ankle just totally gets twisted there, but not to be distracted. Here comes the follow-up.
Okay, help him out.
Dude, there's so many parts about that are so funny. But the very best part to me is the roll, the like jumping flop to immediately getting the gun off. Let's watch that one more time, folks.
One more time.
Rolling, gun just rolling with you.
Yeah.
Get on him, Rick.
Yep.
Okay, help him out.
Does he say, should I help him out in the background?
He says, Nate, help him out. Thomas said that to Nate. And here comes Nate.
Oh, dude.
Very excited. So high five. He's probably like, what the heck did you just do?
That's so funny.
Dude, that hurt so bad. Like that, it was one of those deals where like that happened on the second morning, and we had like 3 days left. I just tightened up my boot, like made it a brace, and we walked like crazy those next couple days. I'll send you a picture.
It's probably pretty similar to what that injury I had playing baseball that time. It was not so bad that I couldn't do anything, but it wasn't good, and it got all swollen, black and blue all over, and it's just like, yeah, it kind of looks the same. Actually, it wasn't filmed, but photographer for the newspaper was taking pictures there that day and happened to catch my ankle on second base.
Oh man!
And it was just like such a bonehead move when I did it too, where hit one like up the middle, and it was ended up being like a grounder to the center fielder, and he fumbled it, and I saw an opportunity to get second quick, so I got second. And I got hung up in that, should I slide, should I not? And I kind of half-ass slid and just, not good. Like that was probably more painful, or as painful as the knee was, really, which is another interesting thing about the ACL is actually, the ACL doesn't actually hurt. It's everything else that hurts. That's why you're able to like keep moving on it. So but yeah, that story of you falling with the turkey is just like, it's just so classic. I did the same thing in that Minnesota hunt that one time.
Yeah.
I jump up and my legs are asleep. Do you remember seeing that ever? I'm like hopping up and I'm like, oh, and I had just been in the same position. Luckily, the turkey didn't need a follow-up, or I'd have been in a similar situation, falling all over the place.
Yeah, that one still had some life to him. He needed some assistance,
but I mean, great job on the effort getting on him. I mean, really, it's that's one of those deals. That's where, I mean, unless I just and I mean, even then, it's better safe than sorry. But like, even if you just absolutely hammer him, just go get on him. It's a there's no harm in doing that, right? It's like no harm in being sure.
Man, but super quick story on that. Like when I was first getting into like this is even before I worked at Midwest Whitetail. Like I just had a little Sony Handycam, filmed these two birds come down this logging road, and it was the first bird I ever shot on film. I shot this thing, and like I thought I totally whacked this. Like just thought I'd absolutely nailed him. Like he did a flip. And he was flopping like crazy, and it was like kind of up on a logging road on top of a ridge, and he immediately like fell off the ridge. I could hear him like flapping around, then it went quiet. Well, I turned the camera around on me, and I like filmed like a reaction, and I went up there. I couldn't find the stupid bird, and I finally found him like 2.5 hours later under a deadfall, like 40 yards away. It turns out like I didn't hit him great, and that bird had some life to him, and tucked himself in deadfall. The only way that I found him was the leaves that looked like they were kind of like ruffled up, and this thing was like tucked under there dead. But man, just could have been much, much worse. Like I very easily could have lost that bird, and if I just would have jumped up and got on him, I mean, you don't want to lose those things. Like
well, it's one of those deals too. Like unlike a deer, you can shoot a deer and they recover. I don't think many turkeys recover post-shot.
No,
I mean, they're just so much more delicate. And not to say that it doesn't happen. I mean, obviously, people shoot turkeys all the time with a BB through the leg or, a little bit of scarring on the breast or something. But I've seen way too many, examples of guys hitting turkeys and being like, oh, I missed him. And it's like, I don't like that.
Yeah, that video that you guys just showed, I think it was Aaron Zimmerman's bird, like it goes to show. I think a lot of guys think like, oh, I missed him. Like you said, I think I missed him. But if they don't have the luxury of watching the footage back, you probably didn't miss him. Like if a bird's out there at distance, think about how open your pattern is at that. Like something's touching that thing, so.
Well, what do you think, bud? I mean, I feel like this is one of these deals where we could probably just keep talking for like another 6-7 hours if we wanted to.
Could very easily happen, man.
Maybe we should do a post-operation podcast here in like a couple weeks. And actually, here's another thing that we're hoping to do, and maybe we could maybe we could make this work because I feel like you're a perfect candidate for it. With this podcast series, and specifically this injury, has led to this new idea of a podcast tour. So
Ooh,
I don't know if
dude.
it's going to be realistic or not. Like, well, it's going to be realistic. I want it to happen. I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how quickly I'm going to be able to do it, but either sometime this turkey season or in the summer. And in future years, I want to do like winter and fall. Or I'm sorry, winter and summer, and then during spring and fall, meet up with people along the way. But like have, basically 4 different seasons to do a podcast tour and just try to bust out a bunch regionally.
I love it.
And like actually sit down with people and, I mean, let them rip. Let us see if we can get a 6-hour podcast,
Yeah.
And just be pretty raw and just hang out and talk. And I feel like that would be a really good opportunity. And also just Wisconsin in general is like an easy place to go to and
definitely, man,
hit multiple people. So maybe that's
you got a place to stay here for sure. We got plenty of room. So
and I'm thinking I'm probably gonna be able to get those silly Wisconsin birds with this injury.
I do like that. They're everywhere,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I was thinking we were talking back at the NWTF deal, or at least around that time when this first happened. Crystal was saying like, well, you can always just hunt with me in Wisconsin. I can't get around as fast as you can normally, so maybe that's our good opportunity to just like it's like, yeah, probably.
I've got this plan that so the place we just moved in on is on just a little over 2 acres, and it butts a cornfield. I really want to shoot a bird in the backyard. Like, nice. I think it'd be really fun. I got my very first shotgun ever is like a little Rossi 410, like youth shotgun. And I mean, there's not a lot of space, so I'm not going to be taking like a super long shot. It's got like a fixed modified choke. I can't even like put a turkey choke in this thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I shoot one, it's gonna have to be like 15 yards it in. I'm sure with those TSS loads, even with it being a modified choke, I'm sure it would knock one down at like 15 yards like that.
Oh yeah, dude, the TSS stuff's just on the verge of being just absurd. Really, it's like, I mean, I've seen even that 20 gauge of mine.
Is that what you're shooting now?
I haven't switched yet. I got to get a different choke because I shot a couple practice rounds out of it, and then also was like, I should probably make sure my choke can handle this, and it can't.
Yeah.
And I didn't chew it up really, but there is one tiny little like scar in it from doing it, and I was like, I shouldn't shoot this stuff anymore. So I have not, but I guess I shouldn't say that. I have like 1 or 2 times at a target, and at like 50 yards, it's just like no brainer dead turkey. Like,
God, that's wild.
Just so stupid with that dumb little 20 gauge. I mean, I don't know. The gun's sweet and has always shot really well. Has always done better than, I guess what I even thought when I first started shooting it. But
yeah,
I think with TSS, and I was also talking to you about potentially getting a red dot, or at least testing that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mostly just because I know, like, for example, when I pull up my muzzleloader or my 450, it's just like I pull up and I'm on it. It's just the way that it anchors on my face, and it feels just super natural to be pulling that gun up and looking through the scope. And I want that with my turkey gun because right now, how short that stock is, when I line the beads up, naturally, when I put my face down on it, my face goes too far forward, and then the beads end up kind of doing this type of deal where it's like the far one is higher than the close one.
Yeah.
And then I have to kind of have to do this, like pop my and
that
which is
sense.
Okay sitting down, and obviously I've done it for years. I've never had an issue. I just think in a situation where like you wound one or something and you need to make a running shot, not even saying in a realistic hunting situation very often, but I mean, then again, I shot one in West Virginia one time that his head like, if the bottom of my screen is the ridge, he's doing this, and he was
Yeah.
already peeking us, and I was like, I'm going to shoot because I got an open shot. And I just about missed behind him because I
Yeah.
wasn't, I was
Keeping up with.
Yeah, and I think it would just be easier to do that with a red dot.
It definitely would. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I obviously work at Vortex, but I mean, I like the first year I worked here, actually, I was like, yeah, I'm not putting a red dot on my gun. Like, I didn't, I was so much like, I know myself, I'm going to leave something on and I don't want to have like a dead battery,
Yep. Yep.
With some of the solar stuff, like that really takes that out of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one thing. And two, like I just always have extra battery in
That's what I was gonna say.
my vest or whatever. But then the other thing that I really like about it is two things. Like at distance, it actually gives you a finite aiming point that you can put on the bird. Like you got a bird at 40, even 40 yards.
Mm-hmm.
The bead on your gun is like taken up from the wattles, like up and over the head, and you
Yep.
can't really like position where the bulk of that pattern is going to be. And like we talked about with TSS and some of these, better choke tubes, better shots, like your patterns are that much more precise. So that requires a more precise point of aim.
Yep.
To actually like put that thing where you want it to be. So like the best example there is I shot a bird a couple years ago that he was at like 53, and I was able to put my dot exactly where I wanted the bulk of that pattern going. And I mean that I absolutely stone dead that turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing on the very flip side of that is when they're super close, now your pattern is really, really tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know exactly, like it eliminates any torque. Like if you think about shooting a bow, I actually think there's a lot of similarities in shooting a bow to shooting a shotgun without a red dot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can torque your bow, and your fiber optic on the sight is still going to be in the center of the center. But what you're not going to see is that left to right torque. Same exact thing with the vent rib on a shotgun bead is like you could be torqued a little bit left, a little bit right, which happens all the time when you're turkey hunting. I feel like they never come right down the gun barrel, So you're always at a little bit of a weird angle. That's the difference of pushing that pattern left or right. The dot, there's no question of what is downrange of that thing, and it makes shooting at those awkward angles so much easier.
Yeah, and I like how light my shotgun is. Like, there's a lot of GoPro angles on my shoulder where you can tell I'm just holding the gun with one hand, and that's why I've never switched. And I really don't want to switch to a heavier gun. Let's say worst case scenario, somehow my gun breaks, like I drive over it or something, just totally bonehead. If I get another gun, my goal is going to be get the absolute lightest shotgun possible. That's my preference. So
I agree.
That's what I would want. And I think as far as having as light as possible of a shotgun, right now I'm accomplishing that. The thing's stupid light. I can literally pick it up with one finger unloaded, is super light. But then just being able to quickly shoot and just make those follow-up shots if need be, just a little bit easier in theory. And
for sure.
I also, I don't know, man. I don't know how exactly I'm going to pull this off yet, but I've told you I have this new idea of gun application, like different one for different hunt. And I've been thinking more and more, what about getting a red dot on a deer driving rifle or a tracking rifle? It's tough because, like, for example, where I've hunted in New York, a lot of that's been really open timber, and I've always thought, well, if I get an opportunity here, there's actually a dang good chance I'm going to want this scope. But on the other hand, if you're doing deer drives in northern Wisconsin, or you're doing a deer drive in a clear cut in Missouri, and you have a rifle, I'm almost thinking red dot. So I'm going to end up over the next couple of years probably buying a variety of guns that I can have like a red dot setup with the scope that I have on my 450 and muzzleloader, and then have something that I, probably a 300 Win Mag or something that I can really extend out there. Because it's just, when you start looking at every application, there's all kinds of opportunities, and
Definitely.
I don't know. It's just it's something that I previously used to just think, oh, just give me the scope, or in a shotgun, just give me the bead. And I'm starting to
Yeah,
see the benefits of all of the options, and I kind of just want to toy around with them, to be honest. It's just
for
been so
sure.
long since I've had a red dot on anything that I want to see what it looks like, and I think that it'll help in the long run.
I think it will. I mean, I think even, gosh, was that Shane that shot that buck with the muzzleloader? He had a dot on that thing. That's like the
Hmm.
perfect use case for that
Yep.
is high stem count stuff. You need something that has just like unlimited field of view
Yep.
and unlimited eye relief. So you're not trying to,
Hmm.
jostle for cheek weld positioning when the
Hmm.
moments is kind of like fleeting on you.
Hmm.
And that is where that setup is. Like I bet with a regular 3x9 scope, I bet that deer's not dead.
But with the 2.5, that's on the flip
Yeah,
side. That 2.5, dude, that scope that I have, which you
yeah,
like, were like, don't talk to me about it. I'm giving you this thing. Like, this
yeah,
is the advice I'm giving you. Shoot this scope. You're gonna love it. Since
yep,
I've put that thing on, like, I've never been so confident in a style of scope. The thing's
yeah.
sick.
I
Because,
love that scope.
yeah, I mean, if something's 20 yards or if it's 200,
Yeah,
you can still pull it off with the same scope. I mean,
totally.
obviously rest and everything's going to make a big difference, but at
Yep.
really close range, it's still really easy to get on things with that scope.
Yeah. The scope you're talking about there is the Viper HS 2.5 to 10. And like if someone is looking for one scope to do like everything, that is it. That thing is whether you're, like a big woods whitetail hunter or even, like someone that's hunting out in Montana, like open country mule deer hunts. And you want something that you're not going to be messing around like dialing an elevation turret. That is a perfect option for somebody.
Yeah.
It's light. It's got great optical quality. I mean, it's like if unequivocally, if you just ask everybody at the office, like, hey, what's best scope for deer hunting? I bet every single person is going to say that Viper HS 2.5 to 10.
Yeah, and I have been amazed at just how versatile it is. Again, whether you're hunting in a place where you may be shooting 200, 250 yards, even I would feel fine shooting that at 300 yards if I was
Sure.
on the right
Oh
gun.
yeah, definitely.
It's just, I guess to me, here's the scope. This is the one that we're talking about.
Yep.
Um, but to me, it's just covers it all. And if I was going to have one gun that I did everything with, it would absolutely be um, that scope. Just as far as what I'm most confident with. Yeah, there's definitely the situation where a deer's running towards you, trotting or whatever, and he ends up inside of 10 yards, and that could get a little, but even then, man, like, it has to be like inside of like 4 yards for it to be,
Oh
all I
yeah.
saw was brown, which that's
Right.
the difference between a 3 power and a
Yep.
2.5 does make a big difference. And
Totally.
if that's a concern to you, I recently was with John Lewis in rifle season in New York,
Yeah.
and I was holding his gun, and he's got a 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Dude, like that covers you for that's like a red dot kind of on steroids type of scope. It's
That's a perfect when you were kind of talking about that, like any one to something like a 1 to 4, a 1 to 6, 1 to 8, like that is going to be super versatile. I mean, we talk about this all the time with our product team. Like it blows my mind that the 1 to somethings aren't more popular in the deer hunting world. Um, it's just, and I think I really do think that that is probably going to be a trend that we start seeing in the next like 5 years. I think you're
mm-hmm.
going to see a lot more guys, especially the kind of hunting style that you have, or like guys hunting big woods, that, they might need to take a moving shot. That I think is going to be a big, big game changer and a big, big, not a game changer, just a big trend. I think more people are going to be adopting that sort of style of optic versus like when you and I were growing up and you heard about a rifle scope on a deer rifle. What did you think?
3 to 9.
3 to 5 mana? Yeah, exactly.
Every time.
And yeah, and I think it's just a mental thing that everybody has, you know, kind of in the back of our head. I really think that's going to be a shift that we start to see.
Yeah, that might actually be a better option yet I've been thinking about getting a muzzle loader that I could use for different situations, and that might really have you covered because I like that. I really like the idea of getting a shot at one inside of 50 with like a light trot to it, or a walk, a moving target, or like trotting at 15 yards. I mean, that's a very realistic situation in a deer driving situation, or even just running right up to you. You're set up right on the trail and they come busting in and they stop at 9 yards. I mean, that happens. You go back and watch those muzzleloader videos that we do. That stuff happens, and I just think that having the versatility to do that, because on the flip side, the one that I shot a couple years ago when I was the driver and I walked up on the bachelor group, that buck was 70 yards, and if I didn't have the scope that I had, I think that I might have had, like red dot, I don't know that it would have worked because there was a little stick, or not a little stick, there was a small sapling right over his shoulder, and I was able to zoom the scope slightly, readjust to the other side of the tree, and then I knew, dude, when I pulled that trigger, I'm talking, you know, everybody's always proud of the shot that they make, right? But it was like when I pulled it, it's like it's going to hit him right on the point of the shoulder. Or it's hitting that tree. Or if I miss to the left, I'm missing in front of him or just barely skimming him. It's like this. I'm talking threading the needle. And when we got to him, it was right on the point of the shoulder. Both his front shoulders were broken, and it was just like
perfect.
But on the flip side, again, if you only have a one power or your open sights or your red dot, I think that getting that needle thread is going to be a lot harder. So therefore, I do like having some power, but again, this is where the 1 to 6 or the 2.5 to 10 covers you.
Yeah. You talked about a like a Remington 760, the pump rifle. That's an awesome one. The one that I'm like sentimental towards because I used to have one. Chantel actually shot a deer with it, and I sold it like a total idiot. I had a Marlin 1894 chambered in 44 mag, so straight wall cartridge that you could use in a place like Iowa, Ohio. I want to get one of those real bad, and I want to put a little 1 to 6 on there, like, and that would be my like when I'm moving, I'm spot and stock because you know. Whatever. Let's say you walk over the crest of a ridge and boom, you're blowing out at 10 yards. Well, at 1 power, you're going to be able to get on that thing right away. But like that situation you're talking about, you're slipping through the timber. Oh, there's one up there at 125 yards feeding on acorns. And exactly.
And like, I read comments talking about, you know, why we should be doing scopeless or red dot only, and I don't disagree with those arguments. I think it's just you're going to give something in most situations, but these a couple examples that we're using, the 1 power to whatever, and then the 2.5 to 10, that covers you in dang near every situation. It really does. And again, that's where I'm not just saying it because, you know, again, because you work at Vortex. I'm not. Dude, I got that thing, and you gave me the advice. That's what you should go with. That's what you're going to like. I put it on there, and ever since, every day that I use it, I'm like, I like this thing a little bit better. I really do. It's like, it doesn't change the weight of my gun, the ability to just cover myself in every situation. And then on top of that, too, I'm pretty sure most of the bucks that I've shot in the last few years, I've zoomed in. If you watch like the the deer
I remember
drive
that
one.
Iowa one
Yep.
specifically. Like you can see zooming in on that thing and shooting it.
Now, with that being said, that's a lot of experience playing into that moment.
Yeah,
That's not necessarily
totally.
something I would be promoting to everybody, because like on the flip side, we
Yeah,
had this
I
big
agree.
learning lesson. This is a goofy story, but if you go back and watch that first day of muzzleloader season this year, Keith was using my muzzleloader because I was filming, and he has these deer coming towards him, and he has that 2.5, which is beautiful. Leave it on there. Always when
Yeah.
you're moving, leave it on there. That's my advice, at least. And
Yep.
Keith sees the deer. They're far away. He zooms it to 5. Well, then the buck comes running up and is at about 40 yards and turns
Yep.
to run, and he's at 5 power, and it's like he's only seeing deer. He's not seeing, that wider view to where he can
Sure.
get the type of lead that he needs, know that he's kind of going into an opening, and that's your advantage of having it at the 2.5. Now, the reason you'll see me zoom at the last second is he stopped. I know I got the time, or I know I have that very split second. I practiced quick zooming of the scope. I feel comfortable in that situation, and all I'm doing is just reassuring myself that there's not just a sapling smack in the middle of the crosshairs, because that can happen too. I had it happen when I was young, and it kind of scarred me for life.
Totally. Yep. I think that's what gets a lot of guys in the archery world, at low light. You see a deer and you just see a big rectangle, dark blob sitting in a shooting lane at 30 yards at last light. And the one that haunts me is that the Barber buck. When I was an intern, dude, like I will never forget that. He was so wide open for me, and I'm sitting there at full draw, and I let that arrow go, and you can see in the footage, it's just like tracking right at this thing, and at the last second, just.
Yep.
And turns out I hit a tiny sapling, like the only one in that window, and that's where, to your point, in a rifle hunting scenario, that extra time, if you're comfortable with it, zoom in, check it out, and you'll just be so much more confident.
And I think it's less and less important the bigger of a gun you're shooting. Like, for example, if I'm shooting a 30-06 through Greenbrier, I'm not that worried about it, especially
at all.
Especially at 40, 50 yards. But if I'm shooting a muzzleloader at 110 through potentially some, beach whips, that might be a little bit different. A lot of that is just reading the situation and, being realistic of what you can push through. But a question that I've been actually meaning to ask you too, because Zimmy talked about it when I was in Wisconsin for the sturgeon spearing.
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about how maybe I should ask you about a moving target range at Vortex that I maybe need to come visit here soon.
You got to check it out.
Yeah, that's something like I think I would love to take a muzzleloader, a 450, and whatever other, fast type shooting guns that I get set up here. I would love to practice and test that, and just because I'm fascinated by, I want to know more of the details of what my muzzleloader can do.
Yeah. So
that's slow.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And what Zimmy's talking about is we did, Mark and I had this exact debate about the 4-16, because that Viper comes in a 4-16 and a 2.5 to 10. Mark loves more magnification, so he's always going to go toward that 4-16.
Well, it's because he's so old, he can't see as well anymore.
Exactly. So he always goes towards that thing, where I love our 2.5 to 10. We did a little shoot off a couple years ago. He shot the 4-16. I shot the 2.5 to 10, and it was a moving distance of, I think, 15 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, left to right at 50 yards. And the amount that you're able to actually, that increased field of view of actually leading that target is so much more beneficial than the 4-16 is great for what it's for, which is longer range shooting. No one's putting a 4-16 on a rifle that they're going to tote through big woods of the Northeast or northern Wisconsin or whatever.
Yep.
You kind of feel like you're looking down a tube at that point, and you've got this constricted field of view, and you hit the nail on the head. The biggest thing that you need to be able to look for is predicting that opening where he's going to hit it with both eyes open, being able to track it and then make that shot as soon as that buck hits that opening.
So I'm curious. I think there's two different ways to do this. I'm curious your opinion,
Yep.
because I have my own opinion. I'd be curious of yours. I think there's two really obvious, easy to explain ways of shooting at a trotting deer. Okay, we're going to
Yep.
just use the same situation for both options. You've got a deer, he's 35 yards, and he's running straight broadside, left to right, and he's going through timber. So there's these obstacles that are happening. Do you, A, put it on him, track him, and shoot and follow through? Or do you, B, put it on him, or I'm sorry, go ahead of him, look for an opening, and then stab it? What do you do?
100% get on him and follow him through until he hits that opening and then shoot in that moment. In my opinion, it is so impossible to do option B, which is like get on that hole and when he hits it, boom,
Punch it.
pull the trigger. Exactly, because it becomes a punch trigger. It's a rush shot. You're not. I mean, nobody shoots geese that way.
Right.
Nobody like goes like this and waits for the goose to fly into it before they start sky blasting.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. I think it's like, let's learn from the people that are doing it from a shotgun or bird hunting situation. Yeah. And when I learned to shoot trap from my grandpa, who did this, I mean, traveled, he was in that industry for a long time before I was born and then when I was younger. And he kind of got out of it probably about the time I went to college. But up to that point, I shot a lot of trap, and it's hilarious. I don't do it at all anymore. But one of the things that I remember him talking about is just getting on it, following through, and pulling through, and don't stop your gun. Once you pull the trigger, don't stop your gun. And I think, why would it be any different for a moving target like a deer? I'm not saying being, I am a believer in taking a running shot at a deer. I know that that's not everybody's deal, and I think that's okay. I think the most important thing is first off, know your limits. Yep. Don't be irresponsible with it. I'm talking situations where we're close range. Deer aren't full tilt necessarily.
Exactly.
That's totally different. But like,
there's a big difference between cooking across a wide open cornfield at Mach 10 and coming through the timber after I got bumped 2 ridges over, and I'm kind of starting to slow down, but I'm still moving. That's, I think, what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah, but like, it's a situation. I think I have a clip of Alex, Ben and Keith's middle brother. Yeah. He shot a deer this year, and the deer was trotting probably 20 yards, and he just levels it. And it's one of those shots where it's like, that's what I'm talking about. That's the type of shot that I'm picturing. I'm not talking about a deer at 250 yards full tilt across the cut bean field. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm more talking about a lightly bumped, the deer that's on the move but not necessarily out of control. And again, knowing your limits and what your experience level is, and if you're on him or not too. Like, if you're not on him, just don't shoot. And you've also seen examples of that, like especially in our muzzleloader hunting. There's all kinds of examples of us letting one go by because we're hunting with muzzleloaders for one, and two, the guy just never has a clear shot. And
definitely,
I think that I'm all about it, but the other thing that I think of when I'm talking about that situation is if I'm on him and I'm following him, if I pull it and I pull it when I'm on him, and I mess up a little bit with where I'm anticipating that opening being, and I hit a tree, so be it. It's like, I got to be on him before I take that, versus I feel like for me, there's some situation where I might take that abrupt shot, but that's more of a walking situation to me.
Exactly.
Yep. If he's walking real slow, and it's like as soon as he steps out from behind that tree, bam. But again, I just think that it's really important to know, again, your limits on it and everything, and that's why I really would love to see what a muzzleloader does at different ranges. Close range, I feel pretty confident, but it's like, what would that be like at 80 versus 40? Because your muzzleloader's going so damn slow compared to a 30-06, for example.
I wish I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I chronographed my muzzleloader before I went out and hunted Nebraska a couple years ago, and I think we talked about this. I killed a little spike buck out there on the very last day, and I killed that buck at 237 yards with that thing. And the reason I felt so confident, I mean, I was like, I know I'm going to crack this thing because we did all that prep work on the front end of like chronographing it. And I knew exactly what my holds were at those distances. But in doing that, it also gives you what your bullet velocity is at that distance. And I think at like past 200 yards, 230 yards, whatever, I want to say I'm shooting a 225 grain power belt copper bullet with 66 grains of Blackhorn 209 by weight. And that was pushing that bullet at like just over 1,000 feet per second at that distance. Like my muzzle velocity, I think at the muzzle was like 1850, 1875.
That's slow.
It was like 1046, I want to say, is the number that stands out. I mean, it's like that's barely, and actually, interesting enough, like that deer was like absolutely stone dead. I hit him on the offside at like the last rib. He was quartering away, and it lodged in the offside shoulder. Didn't exit because that bullet was moving so slow. It didn't really like mushroom out and do a ton. I mean, there was no blood. Like I literally was just following the trail that he was on. He kind of ran down towards this little like cedar choked thicket down there in the bottom. And all of a sudden there he was laying there dead, just stone dead. And it looked like somebody had just like put a needle like in behind the shoulder and out to the offside shoulder. So yeah, I mean, very interesting too, because then you can actually like figure out, okay, what are my shots going to be at? If I would have been anticipating a shot at 200 plus yards, I'm probably not going to go with a copper bullet. I'm probably going to go with some sort of like highly expandable, jacketed bullet or something like that. So
I'm not a bullet expert by any means, but I've definitely noticed, and I think a lot of this started because we were hearing in whitetail adrenaline videos, the guys talk about shooting these Barnes bullets, and we started testing them probably around 2019, I think was the first year we started using them. And night and day difference in blood trails and knockdown power. Barnes TMZ, I actually have one of the ones that I'm using right here by chance, but that's 295 TMZ. I believe is what that one is. And previously I've also shot the straight hollow point. That one's got that tip on there, but I've shot the hollow points, and technically this is a hollow point with just that little tip in there, but it's pretty deadly compared to other muzzleloader bullets and just incredibly accurate. You pair this with the Blackhorn 209, son, I'm talking. Yeah. It really does pretty impressive stuff, and I'm big on that, man. I really want knockdown power, especially, again, in these timber situations that we keep talking about. That's the majority of my hunting is a timber situation.
Yeah, I'm looking at those right now on online. Yeah, it looks like you can get them in like a 250 or a 290 grain. Yeah, those are sweet. And those are copper, too. So copper with a polymer tip, it looks like.
They're sweet, and I'm buying them up as much as I can because they're
they're hard to find.
Muzzleloader stuff in general is all of a sudden just like it used to never be an issue. All of a sudden it's like you can't find any of it.
I know. I feel like I'm always on like the Midway USA like wait list, like email notifications when like Blackhorn comes in or whatever. I just never want to be without that stuff. I never want to not have it.
Dude, I got myself in a bad situation this year where I didn't have a ton of it, and I had a backup plan, and solid options that I had shot with the same, without adjusting anything that would work, but I just don't. I got myself in a weird situation where I was in Indiana, and I Jake told me, oh, yeah, I'll bring Blackhorn 209. Zimmy's got a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Jake didn't bring Blackhorn 209, believe it or not.
Oh, man.
And here I am, like, got like 3 shots, and it, that made me pass up a shot on a coyote that I absolutely would have taken had I had endless Blackhorn 209, and that
for sure
honestly pisses me off. I mean, it was a sweet opportunity to shoot a coyote, but then I hesitated because I'm like, oh, I got, I want to make sure I got enough that's realistic to make a couple follow-up shots and everything if need be. If I'm deciding to shoot at a deer, I don't want to be irresponsible. But yeah, that I got myself in that situation, and then also the bullets and even the primers, man. Like finding because with the Blackhorn, it's really important to shoot the shotgun
primer with it. Yeah, yep.
And that's well, if you watched that last Ohio muzzleloader video, you saw Colin's little issue there.
Oh my gosh,
dude! Also
heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Is that what the issue was? It was wrong primer.
And I mean,
dude, because I told you about that happening to me on that same exact thing, hang fires, and it's just what got me was I cleaned my gun wrong. And I had moisture in the breech plug. So it was like a delayed, type scenario.
The first time I ever dealt with it, the season previous was, I believe, 18 was when we made the switch. So 18 we made the switch, and I think it was one of these deals where a friend told us, Jake and I, like, hey, this is what you need. And we made the right moves then. Well, Jake lent me the gun to go to Nebraska in 2019, and I was out here, and I was going to go from here, Colorado, to Nebraska, and I went out and I shot this muzzleloader, and I mean, dude, the year prior, it was like, a classic deal of make sure it's zeroed, and next thing you know, we're shooting at 200 yards, and it's just, perfect. Softball size groups at 200 yards with a muzzleloader, which that was insane for us at that time, especially because we'd never done that before. Well, then all of a sudden, I'm shooting this gun in 2019, and I cannot get the damn thing to hit anywhere remotely close to what I was the year prior. It would be like one shot, I'm here, and then the next shot, I'm here, and then 3 in a row are over here, and then one's way out in left field, and it's like, what is going on? So I go back and talk to Jake, and he's like, let me ask some people, and he's like, were you shooting shotgun primers? And it was like light bulb.
Bing.
Like I forgot about that, and I had been shooting these muzzleloader, which is what I had. Sure enough, go back out, and it's immediately the same deal. It's like right back to shooting great. Well, since then, I've had multiple, I got plenty of other stories of buddies kind of going through the same growing pains of being at the range and like, I don't know, man, I just can't get it to shoot.
Yeah.
And then you're like, is it your primer? And then it's like, oh, yeah. Well, Colin, now, what happened with Colin specifically is he would shoot his gun a few times before season to make sure it's zeroed. And he made the switch to Blackhorn. And he's not shooting his gun super far. He's shooting it at like 50, 75 yards. So he would shoot it 3 or 4 times to make sure it's zeroed before he'd go hunting. And it would hit fine. Yeah. And in his defense, he probably should be shooting his gun more. But at those shorter ranges, which is a realistic shot, he's doing the right thing. But all of a sudden, he has a hang fire and the season previous, so that would have been the early 22. Then 23, same thing happens, and it's just we're standing there kind of breaking it down, and all of a sudden it's like, what primer are you shooting? And he tells me, and it's like, and then I felt, I'll be honest, and he'll tell me up and down, oh, it's not your fault, it's my fault, but I do feel like a little bit of it I could have prevented because I've made the mistake. And generally speaking, one of my life goals is to show my friends my mistakes, whether that's through video or story, because I don't want them to make the same mistake.
Right.
Well, then sure enough, he goes and does that, and then has a misfire, and it's like you look at yeah, I don't know, it's just a rough situation with the muzzleloaders, but they're finicky. You gotta be.
They are, man. They're very like you need to do everything the same every single time. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you start breaking up that routine, like that's when you start running into stuff like that. I mean, they're very much like a bow. Like a bow is so much dependent on how you hold it, how your grip is, how your release is, where your arrow is, blah, 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 like all that. Muzzleloader is not a whole lot different there. So it's tough, man. It sucks because he missed some really good opportunities.
But what he did do is give us an incredible platform to build an entire series off of a character. Like,
right.
From an editing standpoint, dude, that was so fun for me. Like, I was just like, I always had that in my back pocket, was that like, last year I started the series this year with his like kind of mess ups there before or on the last day. And then, because the last day last year, he hang fires on a coyote. We have that whole like conversation that's so funny about like him getting cut. And then he does the whole scope thing with the GoPros. And then this year, last day, he has that, and it's like that's sitting in my back pocket the whole time. And when I was editing those videos, you'll appreciate this because of your editing history. But I'm sitting there and I'm like putting that last video together, and I mean it's sweet. Don't get me wrong, we killed 2 bucks. It's like the best action that we've ever had. It's my favorite hunting video ever. But I was like, I need something to spice this up. And I'm playing through that last hunt, that last drive, Collins miss. And all of a sudden, it just dawned on me. I had the vision. It was going to be this, like, spin back in time and have him, like, replaying all those, like, failures from a year prior. And, dude, when I put that together, I was laughing so hard at that part. Just, have you seen that segment yet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
I was also laughing at it. The funniest part, too, is when then you text me. You're like, hey, Colin's getting a new muzzleloader. So I'm like, I know exactly why he's getting a new muzzleloader. I didn't even need to ask a question.
Dude, he's, and the thing about Colin, too, is like, he doesn't always screw up. And that's what's funny is like, you can make a video, make somebody look like such a doofus, but like, in reality, he's improved so much. And I appreciate so much how much effort he's put into like any team hunting, whether it's elk or the muzzleloader stuff or turkey hunting. Like he's an incredible team player, and that's what I like about hunting with him. So it's like we threw him under the bus, but luckily he can handle it,
Oh, for sure. I mean, he'll have his day.
No doubt. Well, we keep talking about like, one of these years he's gonna end up shooting a freaking tank, and it's gonna be like sweet footage and everything. It's gonna make it all that much better. But yeah, pretty funny. Yeah. All right, dude. Well, hey, I better let you go considering it's been 3.5 hours, but I've loved it. I lost you here. Okay, there. Can you hear me now? I hear you. Yeah, well, you were just saying we're wrapping up and my earbuds are dying. They're telling me the same thing. I was sitting here like a while ago. I ran out of card space on my other camera, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's just like, it's so funny how you get to talking with your buddies. And it's the way it goes, man. But yeah, let's definitely connect up and do something this spring for sure. Yeah. Even if it's a traveling podcast, whatever. Yeah. Keep in touch. And I guess for those listening, hope you've enjoyed Erik and I's storytelling ramble. This is one of those classic days where I didn't really have a plan, but I feel like we covered some pretty awesome topics and could be beneficial to anybody listening. And I sure as heck enjoyed catching up and telling stories. It's been a lot of fun helped me take my mind off the fact that I'm having surgery tomorrow. That's for dang sure. Absolutely, man. No, it'll be a quick recovery for you. I have no doubts. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening, and wish me luck tomorrow, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See you, dude. See ya.